concerned with individual cells developing ahead of this cluster of wet weather. But because of that, we're starting to see the threat for tornadoes increase. So this is your time to be on guard. We have a couple of hours of potentially dealing with a tornado threat across our region. So we want you to be ready for that. It does look like if you are in places like El Dorado, the worst may be over for you in terms of a tornado threat, but we're still talking about heavy rain. And when we look at the tornado watch that is in place for our viewing area, again, El Dorado, you're no longer in, or Union County in southern Arkansas, you are no longer in that tornado watch, but pretty much everyone else here in the Arklamas, we are all under that tornado watch, and it will stay active at least through 9 p.m. this evening. So this is something we will continue to track. Now, I do want to talk about generally what's happening. We have a lot of energy in the atmosphere leading to a severe weather concern for sure. And again, threats go on from now. Damaging wind, hail, and even tornadoes will be threats as well. I want to turn it over to my colleague, Abby Ezell, for more.
Hi, Marcus. We just got an update in from the National Weather Service in Jackson. They are going to continue that tornado warning that is currently in portions of LaSalle Parish moving into Caldwell. They're going to continue that one into portions of Tallulah and Franklin Parish as the storm continues to ramp up as it pushes off towards the north and the east. So if you are in any of those parishes that I just mentioned, you'll definitely want to be in your safe place, away from windows, lowest level of your home, in an interior room. I did also want to touch on that these storms have been showing signs of hail inside of them. We've been tracking this one storm that split off in portions of LaSalle Parish. That storm has continued to show signs of some larger hail. It has weakened slightly though. Currently we're seeing, let's take a look at that. It was pea-sized just a minute ago. Still likely dropping about pea-sized hail within this storm in portions of LaSalle Parish. And again, this storm is going to continue to expand into portions of Franklin Parish as well as Tallulah Parish. They just issued that tornado warning. So as we turn back to the Doppler 8 radar, we see that right there. You can see it's currently continuing to expand across our region as this storm continues to intensify.
And again, we are tracking additional tornado warnings. We've been more or less trying to inform everyone over the last few days about the threat for severe weather today, and it's starting to come to fruition. Not only do we have tornado warnings here in our viewing area, but if you have any family or friends in southwestern portions of Mississippi, there's at least one tornado warning in that area. But again, between the two tornado warnings covering Caldwell, northern portions of Tallulah Parish, now into parts of Franklin Parish, we also see that stretching into northern portions of LaSalle Parish. And we're also tracking two other strong storm systems now moving across Wynn Parish at this hour. So these warnings that are up, these two tornado warnings, they will stay active for another 30 minutes or so. And it's all because of these dangerous storms that are moving across the region. At this point, we do not have any confirmed tornadoes on the ground. We just have storms that are rotating. That rotation is being picked up by radar, and that's leading to the warnings that are out there. But along with these storms, Abby mentioned that we're dealing with the threat for hail, but also very heavy rain. We're seeing that right now across central portions of Caldwell Parish. If you are in Clarks, you are still under that tornado warning. So again, this is your time to get away from windows, to be in the most interior part of your home. But you're likely hearing a lot of the rain and hearing a lot of the wind as this storm system continues to move across the region. As we look downstream, places like Mangum, while you are dry now, both of these storm systems are pushing in that direction. And so we want you to get ready now. This is your time to prepare, to make sure you are away from windows, to make sure you are in the most interior part of your home until the threat is over. The same goes for Winnsboro and Wisner at this hour, and also into northern portions of Tallulah Parish. So again, dangerous weather moving through, and we want you to take it very seriously. Again, this is not your time to go outside to try to look and see what's going on. These two systems are tracking to the north and east at about 30 miles per hour. And again, when we take a closer look and look at the first warning that's in place across Caldwell Parish, that warning again stays active at least through 3:30 p.m. As my colleague Abby mentioned, we're dealing with not only heavy rain, gusty, dangerous wind, but we're also talking about hail that's being estimated at times greater than an inch. And we've already seen other parts of our region pick up even larger amounts of hail. So these storms, they have a history of producing hail, and we'll likely see more of that. If you haven't already moved your car under cover, don't do it now. Wait until the coast is clear. But if you are ahead of these storms, you may have a better chance to do that to protect your vehicle. But more than anything, we want you inside and protected from any dangerous weather. Now, as we look again north, we're tracking the system, tracking these storms moving north. Again, Mangum, Delco, downstream, we're talking about those storms approaching you closer to 3:30. And at this point, these warnings may expire, but we have a lot of energy in the atmosphere that could support these storms holding on and strengthening. And we've already seen them cycle, more or less weaken, and then strengthen, and that is likely to continue as we head throughout really the next hour or so. We're also tracking another storm that has a possibility of having a tornado now moving across southern, southeastern portions of Wynn Parish once again. Some of these same areas that dealt with very intense weather not too long ago, dealing with the threat for stormy weather once again. If you are in Winfield, you are technically not under any warning, but we have heavy rain pushing in your direction. We have thunderstorms pushing in your direction. So if you're in Atlanta, if you're in Winfield, you need to keep your guard up as well, because this dangerous weather is pushing through. But the time now is 3:01 p.m. Again, we're expecting these warnings to stay with us at least through 3:30 unless we start to see these storms weakening. But at this point, they're there and they are pushing to the north and east. So one thing we have noticed, the area for the northern warning storm across central into northern portions of Caldwell Parish, that area has decreased, or more or less the warning box has decreased in size. And so that's a sign that we're not seeing as much rotation with this, or the rotation is starting to weaken just a bit, which is good news for us. But we're still dealing with a broad warning that's in place across northern portions of Tallulah Parish and also into Franklin Parish at this hour. Wisner, Winnsboro, again, this is your time to get to your safe area before the storm arrives, so you'll be well protected once the storm, if it holds together and it gets there. Now, I do want to show you again what's happening on a broader scale, just to point out that we are, again, dealing with this larger storm system moving through. And it does seem like once we get this more or less active line moving across our region, that'll start to lessen our severe weather threat. Is really what's ahead of this line where we have the greatest chance to deal with severe weather. So this is something we'll continue to follow, but we still have this more or less line of rain showers that will continue to push east. Again, once that line pushes east of the region, while we may still deal with rain, it looks like weather will be a lot quieter, and we're noticing quieter weather back into parts of the Dallas area, and eventually that will be with us as well. I do want to turn it over to meteorologist Abby Azale for more on what we're dealing with right now with these alerts.
Well, Marcus, we don't have any current updates from the National Weather Service, but I do have a track on this larger storm that's moving into portions of Franklin and Tallulah parishes. This will likely be near Winnsboro at 3:26 p.m., likely near Bushes at 3:37. We're talking about Lamar at 3:48 and Bakers at 3:52. If this storm continues to hold together, this storm is moving a little bit faster than the other storm that's in portions of Caldwell Parish. This is currently moving towards the northeast at 40 miles per hour as we put a track on this other storm that's in portions of Caldwell Parish is moving towards the northeast at 30 miles per hour. So we can see that it'll be near Herbert within the next few minutes at 3:10 p.m. Calvary Church at 3:24, 3:27 at Buckner, and a 3:39 for Mangum. So if you are in any of these parishes, Caldwell, Wynn, and even going into portions of Franklin and Tallulah, you'll definitely want to be away from windows and be prepared for these stronger storms to move in. We do have some strong storms just towards the south. Those are what we're keeping an eye on. Those possibly could have some rotation embedded in them as they continue to work their way off towards the north and the east. But Marcus, do you have any updates for us?
Well, yeah, I wanted to talk more about the two warning storms that are moving moving across our region, those two tornado warnings. We have two areas that we're watching for signs of rotation. We see one that's right now in the Columbia area, and we see another one south and east of Columbia, closer to the Caldwell-Tallulah border. So we'll put two circles on the map just to point out the two areas of interest that we're tracking. This is why we're dealing with the tornado warnings for these storms, because we have seen signs of rotation with them, especially based on radar information. Now, again, if you are downstream, we're talking about places like Buckner potentially being impacted, and eventually Mangum, although it looks like this northern storm may actually be weakening more so than the southern one. So we may see less of a threat as we move toward the north and east. But again, we have a lot of energy in the atmosphere, and we want you to more or less keep your guard up as these storms are moving through. We're also looking at another warning again across southeastern portions of Caldwell Parish into northern Tallulah Parish, stretching into Franklin Parish at this hour. Again, that warning likely to persist because the storm is holding together a little bit more. Now, as we look toward the south and east, we have seen another severe thunderstorm warning in place across southeastern portions of Wynn Parish. We're dealing with thunderstorms moving in across the rest of Wynn Parish, so it's very stormy now across southwestern portions of our viewing area, and we'll keep watching these individual cells just in case they start to form into additional tornado threats. When we look at potential rotation with this storm that's located across southeastern portions of Wynn Parish into northern Grant Parish, at this point the rotation, it's broad, it's not very impressive, but we're still seeing signs of rotation. Anytime we see the reds and greens fairly close together, that's a sign of what we could be dealing with. So this is a look at satellite radar, again showing the broader system moving across our region. We're most concerned about these areas ahead of this line of wet weather that's now pushing across the region. We do want to talk about the tornado watch that still is in place. They have moved parts of northwestern Louisiana out of that watch, including for southern portions of Arkansas and Union County. But farther to the south and west, there still is a tornado concern, again, because that larger storm system is moving across the region. We are under a moderate risk for severe weather, so we have a lot of ingredients in place to bring us the threat for tornadoes, but we also are watching for damaging wind and hail and even the threat for flash flooding. But now let's take you throughout the next couple of hours. This is a look at 4:30 p.m. We'll potentially have a very intense line of rain showers and thunderstorms pushing across our region. But once this initial line makes it to the Mississippi River, we should notice weather starting to improve for us. We'll notice still some rain out there, but the weather should be less severe, and that will be the case as we head toward tonight. So if you have any plans for this evening, weather-wise, if you want to be out and about or if there's something going on, again, you'll have a much better weather situation by the time we get to tonight compared to what we're dealing with right now. And when we look at how much rain could accumulate, we're still looking at pockets of our region picking up more than 2 inches of rain. Again, we have a lot of active weather rolling through, and that weather is still impacting us as we speak. So I do want to bring you back to the radar, talk to you more about what's happening with these warnings. And again, we still have the 2 warnings that are in place across our region. One that's located across central Caldwell Parish into northeastern portions of Caldwell Parish, and the other one now covering northern Tallulah Parish into now moving into Franklin Parish. We'll zoom in a little more too, just to give you some additional locations that may feel impacts from this system. Again, Winnsboro, you are next in line to likely feel the impact of this dangerous storm moving through. So we want you to keep your guard up. Columbia, you're dealing with the impacts right now, and all of this is pushing into portions of Franklin Parish. And even while we don't have a tornado warning for Richland Parish, you all are starting to experience heavy rain and lots of intense thunderstorm activity connected to that tornado warned storm that's moving through Caldwell Parish. As we look toward other places in our region, we have heavier pockets of rain now moving across eastern portions of Union Parish, also western portions of Ouachita Parish now getting in on a lot of rain showers and thunderstorm activity. But the worst weather by far is located across southeastern portions of Wynn Parish, also into Caldwell Parish, and across northern portions of Tallulah Parish into Franklin Parish and even Richland Parish at this hour. I do want to check in with my colleague, meteorologist Abby Ezel, just to see if we have any more updates from the National Weather Service regarding this weather.
Well, Marcus, we don't have any current updates regarding what's going on right now, but I did want to talk once again about the hail that continues to fall in the storm in portions of central Caldwell Parish. They're still picking up on some hail on radar. This is likely going to be near pea size. That's what I've estimated over the past few minutes. And yes, still currently sitting at pea-sized hail, continuing to track into portions of central Caldwell Parish. This is beginning to move near portions of Highway 165 in Caldwell Parish. So if you are near there, you'll definitely want to be on guard for the heavy downpours, the small hail that continues to fall, and likely the storm continuing to rotate as it tracks off towards the north and the east. As for this other storm that's continuing to push into portions of northern Tallulah Parish and portions of Franklin Parish, like Marcus mentioned before, likely the next person to get the worst of the weather is going to be portions of Winnsboro, as that storm continues to track off towards the north and the east and into portions of Franklin Parish. So if you are anywhere in Winnsboro, stay in your safe place, away from windows, lowest level of your home, and be prepared for gusty winds and heavy downpours associated with the storm. As we take a wider view, we're still dealing with this line of showers and thunderstorms extending from portions of southern Arkansas all the way down into portions of LaSalle Parish here in the Arklamas. We are continuing to track out some of these storms that are south of I-20, just outside of our viewing area. Those look like they could pose the strongest potential for tornadic development going into later on in this afternoon as they continue to work off towards the north and the east. Currently, we do have this severe thunderstorm warning out for portions of Winn Parish. I do believe this does have a tornado possible tag on it, so let's take a look at that here real quick if I can get that pulled up. Like I mentioned before, yes, it does have a tornado possible tag on it. Wind speeds as high as 60 miles per hour will be possible in this severe thunderstorm warning out for portions of Caldwell and LaSalle Parish, just behind this current warning as it continues to track off towards the north and the east. This also potentially does have some hail in it. So as we take a look at that, yes, this looks like it has dropped some larger hail in portions of Winn Parish as it made its way through. Walnut-sized hail right there estimated on our hail track. So this storm system that is behind this one tornado warning that continues to push through central portions of Caldwell Parish does have the potential to show signs of a tornado and show signs of a larger hail embedded in it. So Marcus, do you have any updates for us?
Well, yes, I want us to take a closer look at the storm that's now moving into Franklin Parish. When we circle it again, we're noticing the reds and the greens close together. And when we put a track on this storm as it continues to push to the north and east, we're talking about impacts as we head toward Brownell by the time we get to 3:38 p.m. and then eventually for Winnsboro by the time we get to 3:47 p.m. It may arrive a little sooner, but we're still talking about this dangerous storm as it continues to track to the north and east. And even if the tornado warning is canceled for this storm, we're still talking about some major impacts in the form of heavy rain and potentially gusty winds. So again, this is a dangerous storm that's moving through Franklin Parish, but we still have that additional tornado warning that is in place across Caldwell Parish. We're not as noticing as defined of rotation across northeastern portions of Caldwell Parish. That's a good sign, meaning that the storm itself is continuing to weaken, but still keep your guard up. We still have that warning out there, and these storms have weakened and then strengthened. They've been cycling back and forth, and we're expecting more of that activity to continue as we head really through the next few hours, or next hour or so at least. When we take a look at what's happening again, we look back to the south and west. We're still dealing with this severe thunderstorm warning that is now pushing into southwestern portions of Caldwell Parish. Again, very heavy rain, lots of lightning, gusty wind, pretty much all of Winn Parish dealing with active weather now. And we're keeping an eye on these individual cells by themselves because that's where another threat for active weather will likely be out there. So as we take a look at what's happening on radar, We do have an additional warning now setting up. We have this severe thunderstorm warning now covering Morehouse Parish into northern portions of West and East Carroll Parish. We're also looking at that stretching across southern portions of Ashley County at this hour, but we have the greatest concern for this tornadic weather, in particular this cell right here, as it continues to move into Franklin Parish. So if you are in Franklin Parish, if you're in places like Winnsboro, you do want to keep your guard up. Again, a dangerous storm is moving in your direction, and we're keeping an eye on these individual cells farther to the south because we could potentially see them spin up and turn into tornadic systems as well. We do notice things are a lot quieter back to our west. They're just dealing with rain showers across the Shreveport area and also across western portions now of our viewing area. I would say if you are in western portions of Union Parish, even across much of Lincoln Parish, we're looking pretty good right now in terms of active weather. The threat for severe weather is starting to drop for you, but it still is very high across our eastern parishes, whether you are in LaSalle Parish over into portions of Tallulah Parish, Concordia Parish, up through parts of Tensall, Madison Parish, East and West Carroll Parish. I do want to turn it over now to meteorologist Abby Azell for a little bit more.
Marcus, we do have a new update into our weather chat with the National Weather Service in Jackson. They have stated that the storm in southwest portions of Franklin Parish is showing signs of strengthening and likely signs of dropping a tornado within the next few minutes just west of Jigger. So if you are located within Franklin Parish, southwest Franklin Parish to be exact, and you're near or west of Jigger, I want you in your safe place right now. We're likely going to see this tornado reach the ground within the next few minutes. We'll likely have an update here in the next few minutes as if this tornado continues to strengthen as it has been, this radar indicated tornado. So this possibly could be a confirmed tornado within the next few minutes in portions of southwest Franklin Parish.
Yeah, well, thank you for that information, Abby. We're going to take a closer look at what's happening on velocity, and this is the storm that she's talking about. Again, we're seeing the reds, we're seeing the greens very close together. So if you are in Bluey, for instance, you need to be away from windows. If you're in Mason, you need to be away from windows in the most interior part of your home because we have this dangerous storm that's in this portion of Franklin Parish, and it's continuing to track to the north and east. Now, again, Abby mentioned that if this storm could potentially be confirmed as a tornado, we typically need eyesight on the ground for us to confirm that there's a tornado. But again, the radar is showing very strong signs of rotation. So we want you to, again, take this very seriously. If you're in Brownell, for instance, you need to be in your safe place now, away from windows in the most interior part of your home, because again, we have this dangerous storm moving through. I do want to put a track on this rotation just so you can see, again, more locations downstream that could potentially be impacted. But we're talking about places like Winnsboro and also areas farther to the south and east. And as of now, again, we're talking about this storm is moving to the northeast now at about 45 miles per hour. And it is more or less located near Jigger, or 11 miles southwest of Winnsboro. So again, this storm is continuing to track, is moving a little quicker than some of the earlier storms. We'll put an updated track on this storm just so you can see. Again, we're tracking where we're seeing the strongest signs of rotation. And at this point, we're looking at a storm that is more or less moving at about 45 miles per hour. So we'll get that track up there for you in a few moments. And as we talk about what's on the way, we're talking about places like Brownell by the time we get to 327. So that's 10 minutes from now. And then also as we look toward places like Bushes by the time we get to 3:41 p.m. So this warning that we're tracking, it is scheduled to go through 3:18 p.m. So we're still dealing with another 10 minutes or so of this warning. But if we can, in the control room, if we can take our tower cam, I want to show people what we're dealing with right here in Monroe, because we have that line of intense weather starting to move through the Monroe area. Fortunately for us at this point, we don't have any severe warnings for Ouachita Parish, but we are dealing with a lot of rain starting to push through. If you were wondering what's happening, that's what we're dealing with at the moment. But now we can go back to our graphics, and I do want to point out again this dangerous storm that's moving through Franklin Parish. We put a couple of locations on the map to give you an idea of where the storm will be as we head throughout the next 10 minutes or so, or even beyond. Again, Brownell, by the time we get to 3:27, so the time now is 3:19, so not too long before this dangerous storm is more or less passing through that area. Eventually Winnsboro, we're talking about the storm likely passing across your region as we head toward 3:31. And based on information from the National Weather Service office out of Jackson, Mississippi, it seems like they'll keep this tornado warning because, again, this storm is showing signs of rotation. As we look further downstream, we're talking about more places being impacted like Bushes and then Crowville as well. So this is a dangerous storm. It is under a tornado warning. If you are in southwestern portions or really central and northern portions of Franklin Parish, this is your time to prepare for the threat for dangerous weather, for active weather. And that's what we're dealing with now across southwestern portions of the parish. And all of this is continuing to push to the north and east as well. Again, dangerous weather pushing through our region. I do want to talk about what else is happening across the rest of the region. We're still dealing with intense showers and thunderstorms moving across southeastern portions of Wynn Parish, and we're still watching individual storms develop and move across other parts of our region. We do want you to be on guard, keep a guard up, because the dangerous weather is out there. So even if you're not under a tornado warning, we still have a lot of wet weather to get through, and it's really what's ahead of this line of wet weather that's now moving through the Monroe area. Once this line pushes to our east, things should be a lot better for us, but it's really what's along the line and also ahead of the line that is threatening us when it comes to weather. So again, a very dangerous situation for us this evening, and I'll take you back to those two tornado warnings just to give you an update on where they are. Last check, we had a tornado warning that was in Caldwell Parish. It has since been canceled, so that is great news for you in Caldwell Parish. But if you are located in Franklin Parish, we're still dealing with that very powerful thunderstorm rolling through. And even if you are outside of that tornado warning in Caldwell Parish, we're still talking about an intense thunderstorm bringing a lot of rain, now moving into southern portions of Richland Parish and also moving through central portions of Franklin Parish at this hour. So if you are in Winnsboro, definitely take it very seriously. This is definitely a dangerous storm. I do want to check in with my colleague, Abby Zell, just to see if we can figure out if this storm that's moving through Franklin Parish is producing a lot of hail. Abby, if you can you tell us what's happening when it comes to hail with some of the storms that are moving through?
Well, with this storm that's currently moving through portions of Franklin Parish near Winnsboro, just southwest of Winnsboro, actually, it's not producing much in the way of hail as of right now. It was earlier, and it still could be as it continues to track off towards the north and east, as it does that, as we are expecting that rotation to continue. It has shown signs of strengthening within this cell. We are continuing to track this rotation that's just south and east of south and west of Winnsboro. This is continuing to tighten, so we likely have a stronger storm on our hands. It was producing hail earlier, but as of last check, it doesn't look like it's producing hail at this time. It was producing smaller amounts of hail. So as we take a wider view as to what's going on all across the ArkLaMiss, we currently have this storm that we are watching for portions of Franklin Parish. This is a stronger storm, likely has a tornado warning on it, likely going to be producing that tornado within the next few minutes. It has not been confirmed just yet, radar indicated. As we take a wider view, we currently have a severe thunderstorm warning out for portions of East and West Carroll parishes, as well as Ashley County in South Arkansas. This is producing some stronger wind gusts. I was looking at this storm earlier, and it does show some ever so slight signs of potentially trying it to rotate. But as of right now, that isn't our main concern. We're really watching this one storm towards the south and portions of Franklin Parish that continues to strengthen as it moves towards Winnsboro. So if you are in anywhere in Franklin Parish, make sure you're in your safe place away from windows and you have a plan in place as the strong storm continues to impact you. Marcus, do you have any updates?
Well, yeah, I want to talk more about this Franklin Parish storm because this one is tornado warned. This is the only warning that we have in our viewing area now, and this storm is still showing signs of rotation with it. We do not have a confirmation of a tornado on the ground, but we do have a rotating thunderstorm that has been strengthening and weakening over the last hour or so, and again, it's producing a threat for tornadoes or tornadic weather. We could potentially be dealing with a tornado on the ground, but we don't know that yet. We have not had any confirmation. But as we talk about what we're dealing with, we're still looking at excuse me, we're still looking at thunderstorm activity back to the west across northern portions. Wynn Parish now moving across Caldwell Parish and Ouachita Parish, that is. And as we put a track on the storm that is now moving through Franklin Parish, again, that tornado warned storm, we're looking at Winnsboro being impacted right now. The impact will continue, and that area of rotation that we're tracking, it is now just south and west of Winnsboro, but this is the broad area that we're tracking, and so we're waiting to see what happens as it moves across Winnsboro. But as it moves across Winnsboro, you'll likely deal with very strong wind. And again, a lot of rain, lightning. Again, you'll hear thunder. Again, that dangerous storm, that tornado warned storm still moving across the area. As we look back to the south and west, we're still looking at this severe thunderstorm warning across portions of southwestern Caldwell Parish, southeastern portions of Wynn Parish. But you'll notice we're starting to see lighter rain back to the north and west for places like Goldana. Winfield, you're still dealing with heavier pockets of rain now. We're still noticing some intense rain and thunderstorm activity moving across Montgomery, just south of our area in Grant Parish. We also notice it in Dry Prong. But once this leading edge of very heavy rain makes it just east of us, things should be a lot better for us weather-wise. So here's again another look at what's happening. We are noticing more or less lighter rain back to the west, more active weather along and ahead of this line of wet weather that's moving through. But I would say probably in about another hour to hour and a half, that initial line of active weather should be to our east, and we'll notice improving weather from there. We will still have to watch what happens across central portions of Louisiana. We're still looking at some very intense rain, some thunderstorms moving out of Texas into Louisiana, but the threat for active weather will still be there. So the time now is 3:27. We still have that tornado warning that stays with us at least through 3:30. We have another 3 minutes or so. So we'll bring you an update on that warning momentarily. In the meantime, I want to show you that we're still dealing with a tornado watch for most of our viewing area, extending farther south into Louisiana, central and southern Louisiana, and now into western portions of Mississippi. So I want to turn it back over to meteorologist Abby Azale for a little bit more.
So that storm we were tracking earlier through portions of a central Caldwell Parish has begun to spin back up once again, and they're looking at it now for possible signs of rotation once again. It currently doesn't have a tornado warning on that storm, but there is a severe thunderstorm warning active for Franklin and Richland parishes until 4:30 p.m. for a tornado possible and hail 1 inch in size. So this is the second storm that split off from the original tornado warning we were tracking through portions of Wynn Parish. So as we take a closer look at this storm, it does likely show signs of rotation, as the National Weather Service has noted. I'm not really seeing that right now, but we are going to continue to track that, as it is going to show possible signs of rotation over the next few minutes as it continues to push off towards the north and the east. Let's get a track on that and see how fast this storm is moving. It's currently moving off towards the northeast at 45 miles per hour, so it is a little bit faster. So as we put a track on this storm, it will be near Clarks at 3:49 p.m., near Columbia at 3:57, 3:59 Caldwell Parish, Herbert at 4:06, and Buckner at 4:16. So if you are in portions of Franklin and Richland Parish that was just put underneath this severe thunderstorm warning, you will definitely want to stay on guard for the latest, as there is a tornado possible with this storm. So I'm going to turn things back over to Marcus for the latest.
All right, thanks a lot, Abby. And again, we're back with this tornado warning. It is still scheduled to expire at 3:30, but we're still seeing signs of rotation, so it will likely be extended. If this warning is expired, we will let you go back to your regular programming, but we'll be back on with more updates as we face them, any more additional threats across our region. But at last check, as we track this powerful storm moving across parts of central and now northern Franklin Parish, Longview, you'll likely feel the impact of the system as we head toward 433, and then Baker's by the time we head to 351. The storm itself has been tracking to the north and east, and when we take a look and see if there's any sign of rotation, we're still seeing broad rotation now pushing into the Winnsboro area. So we don't have any confirmation, but again, we're still dealing with a dangerous storm passing through the region. I want to check in with my colleague, meteorologist Abby Azale, for an update.
So Marcus, we do have a new update on this storm that's in portions, this tornado warning storm that's in portions of Franklin Parish. This will continue for another 30 minutes as they have extended this warning until 4 p.m. as this storm continues to show signs of strengthening here in Franklin Parish. So as we take a look at it on a radar, we continue to see those signs of a rotation within that storm. So that storm is likely continuing to rotate across the just south of the Winnsboro area, likely moving off towards the north and the east. So if you are still in Franklin Parish, keep your guard up, stay in your safe place, and make sure you're away from windows and the lowest level of your home as this tornado warning storm continues to track off towards the north and the east. Marcus, do you have anything for us?
Well, yes, I do want to talk again about the additional warning that we have in our viewing area. We're dealing with this severe thunderstorm warning that's covering northern portions of Morehouse Parish and now into southern portions of Ashley County in southern Arkansas. This storm producing very heavy rain, gusty wind, lightning, so a lot of concerns. We've seen a number of storms that have already moved through this area produce hail as well, so that's a threat that we'll be following, but we still have dangerous weather rolling through. The good news is, though, we'll notice things are a lot quieter back toward El Dorado. They're quieter back toward Farmerville and Ruston. We still have the chance to get more rain in those areas, but it's looking much better for us now that this leading edge of intense weather is moving across most of our region. So let's take a look at what's happening again on a broader view to sort of show you what's going on. We have this leading edge of shower and thunderstorm activity that's continuing to push east. As it does so, things are quieting down. These storms are using up a lot of the atmospheric energy, so anything that comes after them, we're noticing more or less that it's just rain or cloud cover, but much weaker weather. We're still tracking some very dangerous storms moving out of Texas into central Louisiana, and if those hold together, they could impact some of our southern parishes as we head throughout the next couple of hours. But the worst weather we're tracking now is along the leading edge of this heavy rain and thunderstorm activity, and all of that is continuing to push to the east. I do want to take a look at what's happening with the warning one more time, just to show you that's the reason why we're on air, and we're talking about, again, that warning more or less being in place now. And you know, this is a concern. We do want to talk about this Franklin Parish one because while we have not had any confirmation of a tornado, it looks like where we have the strongest rotation is moving right over Winnsboro as we speak. So we'll take a look at that and see if we can point that out for you, just so you can see it. And sure enough, we see brighter colors now over the Winfield area. I'll circle it because this is pretty much where we have some of the strongest wind with that storm moving through. So this is the area that we're tracking pretty much right over Winfield. We want you to definitely take it very safely. Do not go outside. Do not try to go and see what's happening with the weather. This dangerous storm is moving right across Winnsboro as we speak. And again, this is what is going to continue tracking to the north and east. And as we checked in with my colleague, meteorologist Abby Ezell, she mentioned that the National Weather Service office out of Jackson, Mississippi, which covers our eastern parishes, they have extended this warning time through 4 p.m. So we still have enough rotation with this dangerous storm where they felt it was warranted to continue the warning. So we have this dangerous weather. We want you to take it seriously. If you're in Winnsboro now, we're looking at some of the strongest wind with this storm now overhead. At this point, we are fairly far away from the radar, so we may be picking up faster winds higher up in the atmosphere. But again, we want you to take this threat very seriously. If you're located in Baskin, you're just north of some of the strongest wind, but we still have a lot of thunderstorms in this area. So we want you to, again, take it very seriously. This threat will be over in the next few minutes or so, but right now the main threat is right across Winnsboro. So typically what we tell students to do, if you are at home, get away from windows, get to the most interior part of your home and wait out the storm until the threat is over. If you still want to hear what's happening, what we're saying on television, I know, for instance, you can turn up the TV loud, but just make sure you're away from any window. So that way, when you're in your safe place, you can actually hear what's going on with the weather. Now, I do want to turn it over to meteorologist Abby Ezell with a little bit more on what's happening.
Like Marcus mentioned before, if you are taking shelter right now and you aren't able to stay with us on TV, we are live right now on Facebook. We're live streaming this coverage on Facebook, so you can pull up your cell phone and watch our live coverage right now on Facebook. We are going to continue to track this storm that's progressing through portions of Franklin Parish near Winnsboro. That's where we're noticing this stronger rotation. As you see those reds and orange colors on the map right there come together, that's where we're tracking the strongest portion of this storm. It has recently started to produce some small amounts of hail within this tornado warning storm. So as we take a look at that, likely back up to pea-sized hail falling with this storm as it moves towards the north and the east in portions of Franklin Parish. So as we turn it back to Doppler radar and we put a track on this storm, it's currently moving off towards the northeast at speeds of, let's see here, at 45 miles per hour. Moving off towards the northeast at 45 miles per hour. And as we put that track on there, it's going to show us where the storm is headed in the next few minutes. So 3:51 p.m. Baker's Delhi around 3:57. We're talking about Ashley as we go into 4:24 p.m. So this is going to be a fairly strong storm that's continuing to work off towards the north and the east. So you want to be in the lowest level of your home, away from windows. And if you do have something like a helmet you could use to protect yourself, put that on as you go into a shelter away from this storm.
All right, well, let's talk a little bit more about what's happening across the rest of our region. Again, we have this tornado warning that we're most concerned with, and we'll continue to follow that threat. Again, this warning has been extended to 4 p.m. We're still looking at rotation with this storm. We do not have a confirmed tornado on the ground, but we definitely have a dangerous storm moving across Franklin Parish. On top of that, we're tracking a severe thunderstorm warning that covers much of Morehouse Parish into southern portions of Ashley County, as well as across northern portions of West Carroll and now into East Carroll Parish. And then behind that, I want to give you some good news. Places like El Dorado right now just dealing with clouds and rain. We're noticing quieter weather, but heavier pockets of rain moving through much of Lincoln Parish at this hour. and we're noticing some of the last bits of the really intense weather continuing to push east of wind pairs. So if you are in places like Winfield, you're doing a lot better weather-wise compared to just an hour ago. Again, we're still noticing the line of intense weather pushing through our region, but I do want to see if we can pull up our tower cam one more time just to show you that things are starting to improve here in the Monroe area. This is on the backside of that heavy rain that was pushing through the region. As you see, we have water on the camera lens, but things are, you can see a lot better on the camera, and that's a sign that we're not dealing with as heavy of rain moving across our region. You'll notice it's a little dark and cloudy farther to the east. That's where the storm system is continuing to move, moving away from Monroe. So we're starting to get some good news here in the Monroe area in terms of the threat for severe weather dropping. But we still have a high chance for severe weather across much of our eastern parishes. So let's talk again about what's happening on radar. Again, this is a broad view of what's happening. We're looking at another tornado warning outside of our viewing area, impacting areas in the Alexandria TV market. As of now, this is traveling more east, and that may be a good sign for us, but we still have to keep an eye out for places like Concordia Parish and even southern Tallulah Parish as we head throughout the next couple of hours. But as we zoom in back to this tornado warning storm that's right now over the Winnsboro area, is pushing to the north and east, and so it's now pushing just east of Mangum. But Mangum, you're dealing with a heavy thunderstorm pushing across that area as well. It is actually warned, it's actually a severe thunderstorm now pushing into the Mangum area. So definitely take these storms seriously. As we put a track on the tornado warning storm that's currently moving across Winnsboro and now pushing out of Winnsboro, we're talking about places downstream that could be impacted, including Waverly, also Baker's a little closer to 4 p.m. Eventually Delhi, if this system holds together, we could see more impacts in that direction. And then eventually downstream, we'll likely see it push across western Madison Parish and into southern portions of East and West Carroll Parish. As we look and see where we have some of the strongest signature for wind, we're still seeing it in the Winnsboro area, but it looks like the strongest wind now is pushing just east and north and east of Winnsboro. So things are looking better, are starting to look better for you in Winnsboro. But again, we don't want you going outside. The dangerous weather is still fairly close by, but if you are east of Winnsboro, if you're north and east of Winnsboro, if you're in places like Baskin, we still have dangerous weather nearby. If you're south and east of Baskin, we're talking about that's where some of the most intense weather is currently located. Again, as we look to the north, we're dealing with this severe thunderstorm warning that's still in place for Morehouse Parish, southern portions of Ashley County and southern Arkansas, as well as into portions of West and East Carroll Parish. The threat for threatening weather is still out there for sure. And as we look back to the south and west in terms of velocity, we're seeing improving weather across places like Winfield at this hour. This is a broader view. We're tracking this leading edge of most active weather moving across our region. If you have any family or friends back in the Shreveport area, they are starting to get the all clear. Things are looking better for them. If you have any family or friends in the Ruston area, things are starting to look much better for you as well, just dealing with rain and clouds at the moment. I do want to take you through the forecast just to show you how things will play out over the next couple of hours, and then I'll send it to meteorologist Abby Ezell to give you a little more information about what we're currently dealing with. So this is a look at our futurecast. It shows that we'll likely have that leading edge of heavy rain and thunderstorm activity continuing to push east, and by the time we get to 4:30 or 5 p.m., we'll likely see that weather pushing across our eastern parishes. But after that, things get a lot quieter for us. We see weather improving for our region, and things look a lot better as we head toward tonight. When we look at how much rain could accumulate from this system that's moving through, some areas could still pick up more than 2 inches of rain. We've already seen a tremendous amount of rain across southern portions of Arkansas for places like El Dorado. They dealt with street flooding in El Dorado today. But fortunately, once this system clears out, we have a nice stretch of dry weather that will be on the way for us. So we have a lot to look forward to. We just have to get through this stormy weather now. I want to send it back to meteorologist Abby Ezell for a little bit more.
Well, Marcus, I'm continuing to watch this storm that continues to push off towards the north and the east and portions of Franklin Parish, this tornado warned storm. This is continuing to show pretty strong signs of a rotation as it moves off towards the north and the east, excuse me. So you'll definitely want to be in your safe place. If you are anywhere near Winnsboro, this is currently where this rotation is located, where you can see that orange and red color right there on the map. That's showing signs of a rotation as the storm tracks off towards the north and east. I also did want to point out the fact that both this storm in Richland Parish and in Franklin Parish are continuing to show signs of small hail falling within them, pea-sized hail to be exact. So if you're in Franklin or Richland Parish, take cover, as we likely do have some smaller hail that is falling in both these storms. Now, this original storm that we were tracking in portions of Winn Parish earlier today, that first tornado warning we got, this is the remnants of that. That split off into two, and that's what we're tracking right now. One tornado warning storm in portions of Franklin Parish and one severe thunderstorm warning for portions of Richland Parish. Now, I did want to highlight that we do have some severe thunderstorm warnings around this tornado warning, but these severe thunderstorm warnings don't have a tornado possible tag on them anymore, so they're likely showing signs of a weakening and weak rotation within these storms. So that is some good news for surrounding communities outside of Franklin Parish. As we take a wider view, we can see what's happening just towards our north. We've got portions of East and West Carroll Parish, as well as Ashley County and South Arkansas underneath a severe thunderstorm warning. This goes in effect until, let's see, it's going to be in effect until 4:15 p.m. today, also including Morehouse Parish as well. I did not mention that earlier. Hail up to 3/4 of an inch. So let's take a look at this storm and see if we're showing any signs of hail inside of this, as it does have the possibility of producing hail. As for right now, we're really not seeing any signs of hail production in portions of Morehouse Parish for the time being. We did see some earlier, but it looks like all of that has ended for you in Morehouse Parish, but you're still dealing with that stronger storm that continues to track off towards the north and the east. Behind this main line, we are still watching this wet weather, but it is likely a little bit weaker than what we have been tracking over the past couple of minutes with this tornado warned cell in portions of Franklin Parish near Winnsboro. So I'm going to turn things over to Marcus to see if he has an update on anything.
All right, well, thanks a lot, Abby. Well, we have more information coming in about that tornado warning that's still in place for Franklin Parish. The National Weather Service office has decreased the size of that warning. That's likely a sign that the cell itself is starting to weaken, which is a good thing, which is great news for us. But we still have this warning. It is still scheduled to go for another 15 or 14 minutes or so. But if you are located in northern Franklin Parish, and that's the area that's dealing with the most intense weather from this tornado warned storm, and we want you to be ready for it. As we talk about some places downstream that can feel the impacts of this storm, we're looking at Delhi by the time we get to 4:09, and then eventually Waverly by the time we get to 4:12 p.m. And again, the storm itself is tracking to the north and east at this hour. Last check at about 40-45 miles per hour. We do want to zoom in and show you where we're seeing some of the strongest wind. We see it now outside of the Winnsboro area. For instance, Winnsboro, you are technically no longer in that tornado warning, so that is good news for you. But if you're located just north of Winnsboro, you are still in that tornado warning, and we're noticing some of the strongest wind now pushing off to the north and east as well. When we talk about some locations to keep in mind, Bushes, Crowville, Longview, all of these areas along Louisiana 17 likely feeling very strong wind, and we're still dealing with that tornado threat. So we want you to stay inside. Do not go outside and try to look and see what's happening. Stay inside until the threat passes, and then you can go outside and take an assessment of what potentially may have happened in your region. But when we take a wider view, Outside of that tornado warning in our viewing area, we have this severe thunderstorm warning that covers Morehouse Parish still. The line itself still moving across the parish, so if you are in Bastrop, you're still dealing with rain showers and thunderstorms, but the worst of the weather is actually north of you and also south of you. If you are in Monroe, for instance, we have a nice lull in the activity. We're still noticing rain back off to the west, but the rain that's farther to the west is much more tame compared to the active weather that's still moving across our region. Again, this is a wider view. We're still most concerned about our eastern parishes, areas ahead of this initial line, but as of now, we're starting to see the severe weather threat slowly drop from west to east across our region, which is great news. If you're concerned about areas farther to the south and east, New Orleans, at the moment, they're quiet, but they're still dealing with thunderstorm activity nearby. And we're also tracking some severe weather now moving through southern portions of Mississippi. But back here at home, we're dealing with the largest storm system moving across the area right now. But we are noticing drier weather to our west, and eventually that will take over for us as we head throughout the evening. We just have to get through really the next few hours, and then things should be a lot better for us when it comes to weather. I do want to talk more about what's happening with that tornado warning, so I'm going to send it over to meteorologist Abby Ezell to tell us a little bit more. And again, that warning stays with us for another 10 minutes or so.
Yes, that's right, Marcus. We've got another about 10 minutes on this warning. It's currently 3:49 p.m. That warning expires at 4 p.m. unless they continue it as we go into the next 10 minutes. It has not been extended just yet, but it is something we are going to continue to watch as the storm continues to show signs of a rotation. And rotation is going to continue as it is pretty strong right now. The strongest portion of the rotation is located near Louisiana Highway 577 near Bushes. So if you are near Bushes or a Longview, get in your safe place now and stay there until this warning expires, as the strongest winds and rain are over you as we speak. So as we take a look at where this storm is headed next, it's moving off towards the northeast at about 40 miles per hour. So this storm will be near Crowville at 3:53 p.m. We're going to be near Longview, 3:58, Waverly, 4:09, Lamar at 4:11, and 4:40 at Midway Church. So if you are in any of those locations, be preparing now for a strong storm to move through your area, as this storm will likely continue on its path towards the northeast over the next few minutes. And it hasn't really showed signs of weakening, so it will continue at its strength as we continue to track it out here on a Doppler 8 radar. As we take it back to the Doppler 8 radar, we are showing some stronger signs of heavier rain moving through portions of central Franklin Parish at this time, likely near the Winnsboro area as we speak. Hail track really not showing much at this time. Likely the small hail that was inside the storm has stopped producing hail. So that is some good news for everyone in Franklin Parish, as the hail production has stopped. So potential signs of weakening right there, but we're still seeing some pretty strong signs of a rotation within this storm as it tracks off towards the north and the east into portions of Franklin Parish. So Marcus, do you have anything?
So I want to talk more about this Franklin Parish storm. Again, as of now, at last check, the National Weather Service has decreased the size of that warning. So that is definitely good news, but we're still dealing with a dangerous thunderstorm moving through this area, and it still is tornado warned for another 8 minutes or so. So we want you to keep your guard up. On top of that, just west or just north and west of Winnsboro, well, we're talking about Mangum, because Mangum, you're dealing with a very intense thunderstorm pushing through your region. It is under a severe thunderstorm warning. So again, the danger is there as well. Not a tornado warning, but damaging wind, heavy rain, hail, all of that possible with that storm system. And we're also dealing with heavier rain now moving through Columbia, and we're still dealing with heavier pockets of rain moving across much of Richland Parish and across southeastern portions of Ouachita Parish. As we look north, though, and put a track on that tornado warning, as mentioned already, it is tracking to the north and east at about 40 to 45 miles per hour. If it holds together, we could be talking about more downstream impacts for Delhi, for Fairview, and eventually for areas across southern and central portions of East and West Carroll Parish. So this is the threat. This is the danger that still exists. Again, this is not a time to go outside and assess and to see what happens. We really want to wait until the threat is over before you do that. And we have another 7 minutes of this warning that we will continue to track. Now, we are dealing with a severe thunderstorm warning also in place across parts of Morehouse Parish. But if you are concerned again with this tornado warning, we're still seeing signs of very strong wind across northern portions of Franklin Parish, and now moving into portions of Richland Parish as well. Keep your guard up. A few places to keep in mind: Bushes, Crowville, Longview, and now areas north like Lamar. Strong wind pushing through. We have that severe thunderstorm warning in place across northeastern portions of our region. Again, Ashley County involved with that, eastern Morehouse Parish. Bastrop, you're starting to dry out, which is great news for you, but we're still dealing with the threat for severe weather for our eastern parishes. And again, on a wider view, we're most concerned with activity ahead of this line. But this line, this heavy line of showers, is continuing to push east. Once it makes it to our east, things should get a lot better for us. And then our neighbors to the east will deal with more of a severe weather threat. So I do want to take you again over the next few hours or so. Then we'll check in with that tornado warning that's out there. But we're still dealing with this moderate risk in place across our viewing area, meaning we can have damaging wind, hail, numerous tornadoes. We've already had a number of tornado warnings today. Again, those threats will be out there. Timing, we're still talking about now through the early evening hours, but things do get better for us as we head toward tonight. The futurecast shows this active weather continuing to push east. Again, the time now is 3:54. In another 30 minutes or so, 40 minutes or so, we should see a lot of this wet weather again reach even farther to the east. And by the time we get to 5:30, I think we'll see much better weather. We'll still have some rain out there, but things should be a lot quieter, more tame for us after that. This is a look at 10 p.m. Clear conditions likely to move in behind this wave. Then we'll see some clouds start to move in overnight. We may even see some fog to start out Sunday morning because of all of the wet weather. But we'll take fog over severe weather any day for sure. So again, the time now is 3:55 p.m. We want to take you back to that warning. It is scheduled to stay with us at least for another 5 minutes or so. And if it is canceled early enough, we'll get off air and we'll let you get back to your regular programming. But because we had that warning in place, we want to make sure you're aware of dangerous weather. So here's a broader view of what's happening in our viewing area. We do have that tornado warning that still is in place across portions of Franklin Parish. Delhi, you're now starting to experience heavy rain from that tornado warned storm. So again, we want you to take that very seriously as well. We have heard of other reports in Mississippi where they've seen some damage from some of the storms that have rolled through. As of now, we have not received any reports in our viewing area of damage, which is a good thing, but we will keep an eye out for any reports of damage as we head throughout the next couple of hours. And we do have an update on that tornado warning. It has been extended now. It is extended as we head into portions of western Madison Parish and eastern Richland Parish through 4:30. So we're still seeing signs of rotation with this particular storm system. And so we want you to be aware that the threat for tornadic weather is still there. It's still a danger for places like Delhi, for Epps. We'll put a track on this too, just so you can see what places downstream will likely be impacted. And as we put a track on this storm system, we are mainly looking at western portions of Madison Parish and southern portions of West and East Carroll Parish. So the threat for severe weather persists. If you have any family or friends that you know that would typically be traveling along Interstate 20 at this hour, you want to encourage them to find a safe place, get off the road, because we have that dangerous weather moving through. So that tornado warning now being extended farther to the north and east. Delhi, you're under that threat. Epps, you may potentially be under the threat as well. Right now, you are just outside of that tornado warning. This is radar indicated, so we do not have a confirmation of a tornado, but we do have enough rotation with this storm where the National Weather Service office in Jackson, Mississippi has decided that the warning needs to be continued. And again, this is radar indicated rotation. We're also looking at hail less than 3/4 of an inch. And when we put a track on the storm as it continues to push to the north and east, again, Delhi, we're talking about you likely feeling the impact as we head toward 4:07 p.m. And then eventually, if the storm holds together by the time we get to Floyd, by more or less 4:28 p.m. So again, we're dealing with this dangerous storm rolling through. If you're in places like Oak Ridge, you are north and west of this warning, but you're still more or less under a severe or near a severe thunderstorm warning. So we still have a lot of active weather moving across the northeastern portions of our region. And again, tornadoes, the threat for tornadoes still with us going forward. I do want to take a look at velocity just to see if we can pick up the signs of rotation. So we'll see what's going on. We'll start to tap into our radar to the east, which is in Jackson, Mississippi. And that radar, more or less, or actually the Shreveport radar, is still showing signs of rotation. So it's still present, even visible from that radar. So I'll circle it for you just to show you where we're tracking, what we're watching. But we're really looking at this area right here. This is the area that we're watching for severe weather, for the potential for rotation. And that's what is of concern, and that's what we'll continue to track as we really look to the north and east. So again, Delhi, you're still under the threat. You're in that tornado warning. It stays active for another 30 minutes or so. And outside of that, Winnsboro, you are more or less in the clear right now. There's still a warning close to you, but that warning will expire. And then eventually the new warning will take over. So if you are south of Winnsboro, if you're in places like Gilbert, you're doing a lot better weather-wise now compared to what we were just dealing with a few moments ago. But again, we have this new tornado warning that stays active at least through 4:30 p.m. And again, we want you to be aware of the threat. When we look at what else, there is a new alert that was just issued south of Winnsboro. So we still have some active weather nearby. And we have more thunderstorms that we'll be tracking. So I do want to point those out. So as we look south, there is a new severe thunderstorm warning in place for southern Franklin Parish at this hour. And as we look farther south, or really as we focus in on that particular storm, that one also has a tornado possible tag. So there's a possibility that we could have a tornado with that warned storm that's moving across that area. We're also dealing with that, again, the initial tornado warned storm to the north. So we still have a lot of activity, a lot of dangerous weather that we're tracking. I want to send it over to my colleague, meteorologist Abby Uzell, for a little bit more on what we're dealing with.
Yeah, Marcus, they just issued that severe thunderstorm just south of Winnsboro. Like you just mentioned, that storm is showing some light signs of rotation as it continues to track off towards the north and the east. The storm is just west of Gilbert, so you'll be getting in on some of that stronger weather as we head over in the next few minutes as the storm continues to develop. Now, this does have a tornado possible tag on it, so it possibly could produce a tornado or have a radar indicated tornado as we go through the next few minutes. So this is something we are going to be keeping an eye on. But as we head more towards the north, towards this tornado warned storm in portions of Madison, Franklin, and Richland Parish, we can see this rotation just along Louisiana Highway 17, just south of Delhi, where you see these yellow and orange colors combining with this red color on the map right there. That's where we're talking about this possible rotation being. This will continue to track off towards the north and the east at about 45 miles per hour. So as we put a track on this storm system, we're tracking it off towards the north and the east at about 45 miles per hour. So Delhi around 4:05. So if you aren't in your safe place already in Delhi, get there now as the storm is continuing to push your way. In Nuka, about 4:37 p.m. Altoona, about for 11 p.m. So we've got a few more minutes with this tornado warned storm that continues to track off towards the north and the east. So if you are anywhere in portions of Madison, Ridgeland, and Franklin Parish underneath this warning, stay in your safe place away from windows, lowest level of your home, and continue to follow along with us as we track this storm out. We're live on Facebook, also live on the air as these storms continue to pop up and develop. Now, I did want to provide a little bit on what we're seeing and why we're seeing it. The reason for today's strong weather has been this warm sector that's developed across our region, and as the National Weather Service has just mentioned in our National Weather Service chat, this warm sector continues to push off towards the north across portions of northeast Louisiana. So this is where these stronger storms are beginning to develop right along this area in some of our eastern parishes. So you'll definitely want to stay alert as these storms continue to track towards the north and the east throughout the rest of the afternoon and evening. They said that this warm sector will likely continue to push northward through about 6 to 8 p.m. So that gives you a reference on a time right there of when you'll want to stay alert to what's going on with the weather as we're continuing to deal with some stronger, dangerous storms that push through the Arklamas at this time. Now, Marcus, do you have anything you wanted to mention?
Well, I want to talk more again about what's happening with the radar, because for some of us, we're starting to see fairly quieter weather, still dealing with rain, but improving weather compared to earlier. That's mainly for areas now west of Monroe. So if you're more or less west of Monroe, down through Wynn Parish and areas back to the west, things are looking better for you. I wouldn't say a total all clear, but we're looking a lot better with much quieter weather back to our west. The most active weather, though, now is mainly across our eastern parishes, anywhere from west to East Carroll Parish, down through portions of LaSalle Parish, Tallulah, and Concordia Parish. And it's really these individual cells, as they strengthen, they begin to rotate. And that's what we're seeing with these storms that are mainly east of the main line of wet weather. The main line of wet weather more or less right here, right across the middle of our viewing area, but more so pushing into our eastern parishes right now. So again, we do have at least another hour to 2 hours more of this threatening weather. But once this leading edge, or once this heavier pocket of rain showers and thunderstorms push east, things should be a lot quieter. But ahead of that line, we're still dealing with a lot of warmth, a lot of humidity. We have a very dynamic atmosphere right now. And again, all of that is leading to the active weather that we're dealing with. As we look to our neighbors to the south, they're dealing with a severe thunderstorm warning in the Alexandria area. They're also dealing with yet another tornado warning in their area. And for our neighbors to the east, across southern portions of Mississippi, they're dealing with a very potent storm producing a tornado threat just south of Jackson, Mississippi. But let's talk again about this tornado warning that has been extended. Again, the main areas of concern are western portions of Madison Parish, eastern portions of Richland Parish, and northern portions of Franklin Parish at this hour. If you are in Winnsboro, the coast is starting to clear out in terms of threatening weather. We still have a severe thunderstorm near you, but outside of that, you're not under any warnings, so that's good news for you. But we're still dealing with warnings for the Rayville area with very heavy rain and thunderstorm activity moving through. And again, we have this tornado warned storm that's right now in place across western portions of Madison Parish, northern portions of Franklin Parish, and eastern portions of Richland Parish. Now, when we put the latest information with this warning, 4:30, that is now the estimated end time for this warning. If this storm holds together, they'll likely extend it for another 30 minutes more. But we're talking about a storm that is radar estimated to have a tornado. So it has not been confirmed on the ground. We have not had any reports of damage. We will check on power outages momentarily, but outside of that, we're just really dealing with a storm that is showing signs of rotation, but has yet to have a confirmed tornado with it. But because of that, we are on air giving you the very latest. Now, as we look at where this storm is headed, it is tracking to the north and east. And as we look at places downstream that could feel the impacts, again, we're looking at Delhi over the next few moments, then eventually places like Warden as we head toward 4:16 p.m. and then eventually Monticello by the time we get to 4:24 p.m. That's if it holds together. And then eventually Floyd by the time we get to 4:30. But again, this dangerous storm is continuing to track across our region, so we want you to be ready. And in particular, we have Interstate 20 that travels right through this region. We want you to be aware, again, if you have any family or friends that typically would travel along Interstate 20 through Madison Parish or Richland Parish, we're talking about dangerous weather moving through this area now. And so we want you to be on guard. On top of that, as we look back to the north and west, again, we have a severe thunderstorm producing heavy rain, lots of lightning, even potentially some hail for places just south of Oak Ridge. Bastrop, you're still under a severe thunderstorm warning. Still some wet weather out there, but a lot of this is continuing to push to the north and east and is forecast to stay intense for a lot of areas east of us as we head throughout the evening. We're also tracking the severe thunderstorm warning that is in place across southern portions of Franklin Parish. Again, another potent storm pushing into the Winnsboro area, but at this point, it's still just south of Winnsboro, but don't be surprised if you get another downpour. And with this storm system, we're talking about it potentially having a tornado. Hasn't been confirmed, is not warned as a tornado warning on this particular storm, but these storms have been showing signs of rotation. And so we're talking about wind speeds up to 60 miles per hour and hail as large as an inch. And that's large enough to start to cause damage to homes and even your vehicles if they are outdoors. Now, when we put a track on this particular severe thunderstorm warning, bushes, once again, you'll likely feel the impact of the system long view as we head throughout the next few moments, really the next 10 minutes or so. And then Lamar as we head toward 4:32. And I do want to talk about this warning because it goes through 4:30 p.m. But if the storm itself holds onto its strength, it's starting to shrink in size. But if it holds onto its strength, we could potentially see that severe thunderstorm warning extended as well. That's what we saw with that tornado warning in our viewing area. When we look at where we see some of the strongest wind with that extended tornado warning, we're still looking in the Delhi area, western portions of Madison Parish. I know this area is a little more rural, but still we're talking about a dangerous storm moving through the area. And when we take a wider view, things are looking better for Ashley County at this hour, but we're still talking about some severe storms moving through eastern portions of Morehouse Parish and now pushing into West Carroll Parish and also into East Carroll Parish as well. We're also noticing some stronger storms now passing across southeastern portions of Arkansas. But back to the west, outside of rain, things are looking fairly good for us. Places like El Dorado doing much better than where we were this morning. The same goes for much of Union Parish, including for places like Farmerville. Ruston, you're getting a heavier pocket of rain now, but at this point, you do not have any additional warnings. I do want to send it over to my colleague, meteorologist Abby Ezell, to talk more about what we're dealing with and to talk more about the stormy weather that's in the area.
Okay, like Marcus was mentioning just a few minutes ago about power outages, I just looked at that, and a lot of the area still has power. There are a few people without power near Baskin in Franklin Parish. That was the one area of concern I did want to mention. But when we look at things on the radar right now, I wanted to talk about the severe thunderstorm warning out for portions of Franklin Parish. I've been beginning to notice that it's continuing to strengthen and likely showing some small signs of a rotation. We can see as we look at a Doppler 8 radar near the Gilbert area where this storm is beginning to form kind of like a hook looking shape. That's where some of the strongest portion of that storm is. That's where it's likely going to start to show some signs of a rotation, and we can see that on a velocity. It does have some very, very weak rotation within this storm near the Gilbert area just north of Wisner, south of Winnsboro. So if you are in this area, you'll want to stay on guard as the severe thunderstorm warning does have a tornado possible tag on it. It goes until, let's see here, it goes until, one second, This storm is going to go until 4:30 p.m. this afternoon. For Franklin Parish, tornado possible once again. Wind speeds of about 60 miles per hour and hail up to 1 inch in size. And as we look just towards the north for portions of Madison, Richland, and portions of Franklin Parish, we're continuing to track out this tornado warning, still showing signs of a rotation right along the Ridgeland Parish, Madison Parish border along the I-20 corridor. So if you are near that area, you'll definitely want to stay alert right around Delhi. Make sure you are in your tornado safe place and you have a way to get warnings as the storm continues to track off towards the north and the east at about 40 to 45 miles per hour. So as we extend out this area of concern, we're talking about Lake Providence near 4:45 p.m., Alfreton about 4:47, and then Galilee Church at 4:18, Cottonwood at 5:05 p.m., and the Issaquena School at 5:12 p.m. So if you are in any of those areas, make sure you're staying alert, as this storm has had a history of pretty strong rotation, and it has continued to keep up with the pretty strong rotation as it has worked its way off towards the north and the east. This is its third extension, so we were originally tracking this storm through portions of Franklin and Winn Parish, but it's continued to track off towards the north and east into portions of Madison and Richland Parish. East Carroll Parish, you're up next, so have a plan in place, a possible location for this storm to continue to track off towards the north and the east. So definitely keep Franklin, Madison, and Richland Parish, if you are in any of those areas, keep the weather in mind as we're continuing to see some of these stronger storms, and we'll likely continue to see the development of these stronger storms right around in this area as this warm sector continues to lift off towards the north and finally beginning to exit our area. As we take it back to a wider view on Doppler 8 radar, we're continuing to track this main line of storms, and then we've got some other ones just towards the south. That's where some of this stronger weather could be located as it tracks off towards the north and the east. They do have an active tornado warning just south of Alexandria. It looks to be moving a little bit more eastward than northeastward, so definitely stay weather aware if you are in any of our eastern and southeastern parishes and counties. Now I'm going to turn things back over to Marcus. Marcus, do you have any updates?
Well, I do want to talk more about some of the individual cells that are still in our viewing area, and those may be likely to potentially produce more severe weather. We're mainly talking about activity that's now moving through portions of Tallulah Parish, northern portions of Concordia Parish, and into southern portions of Tensall Parish. We'll have to watch and see how these storms progress over the next 30 minutes or so, even beyond that, to see if these lead to additional warnings across our region, whether it's severe thunderstorm warnings or even a tornado warning or two. But I also want to talk to you more about the tornado threat, because we're starting to see some areas lose the tornado watch, which is great news. So again, this is a broader storm system. As it continues to push east, the threat for severe weather will continue to lower across our region. And when we take a look at the alerts that are still out there in terms of our watches, we now have we have more or less an all clear for places like Jackson Parish, Lincoln Parish, also into Union Parish, as well as Union County. So we are starting to see, again, less of a severe weather threat move across our region, but we still have these tornado concerns across our eastern parishes, so we want you to keep your guard up. In particular, we're still dealing with a tornado warning. When we look farther to the south and east, things do look a lot better for us. Or let me clarify, they still have tornado watches in place, but farther to the west, the weather does improve. So this is a look at 10 p.m. Things will be much quieter for us at this point, which is great news, and we'll be able to relax just a bit. And it looks like we'll have a nice streak of pleasant weather as we head into the new year, but we're still looking at potentially a good amount of rain from now now through about, I would say, 9 p.m. or so. Some areas could pick up an additional inch to 2 inches more of rain. So not only are we talking about the threat for severe weather, we're talking about the threat for heavy rain as well. And when we talk about what else is going on, we do want to take you back to just the view of the radar across our viewing area. Just to point out, we still have that tornado warning that is in place. It has more or less been in place now for another 15 minutes, or will be in place now for about another 15 minutes or so. We'll have an update on that storm system as it progresses. But as of now, it has shown a history of producing rotation. We have not had any confirmed tornadoes on the ground. And when we take a look at what's going on with the system, we'll see if we can pull up the velocity fairly quickly just to see if we can point out any type of rotation. At this point, we're still noticing some stronger wind, but not seeing a whole lot of rotation. I'll circle an area that would be one to watch is really this part of the storm. That could potentially be an area where they're dealing with some very strong wind. I'll also put what we call a query where we can measure how fast the wind is blowing in this particular area, just northeast of Delhi. We're looking at wind up to about 60 miles per hour and gate-to-gate shear at about 25 miles per hour. That gate-to-gate shear lets us know how much rotation we may have in that particular area. And we're still showing some signs of rotation. So again, that's why that warning is still in place. I want to measure another area across western portions of Madison Parish because we're still looking at a broader area of rotation just south of Delhi, showing gate-to-gate shear closer to 60 miles per hour and also wind up to about 70 miles per hour. So we still have a concern, excuse me, we still have a concern for strong wind and dangerous wind. This is a more rural area, but I'll zoom in just to see if we can get a few locations for you. Western portions of Madison Parish, as we look toward Lamar, just north and east of Longview. Again, this is an area where we're dealing with enough rotation where we still have that warning in place. So we want you to take this threat very seriously. We still have this tornado warning that's with us for another 10 minutes or so. We're still seeing signs of strong wind with this thunderstorm complex that's moving across the area. So the threat still exists for active weather, and we don't want you to let your guard down just yet. And as we put a track on this too, just to see downwind, downstream, who else could potentially be impacted by this storm system. It has been tracking to the north and east in places like Delhi. Right now you're experiencing it, and eventually we're looking at places like Monticello by the time we get to, more or less by the time we get to 4:36 p.m. So we're looking at more information from the National Weather Service, and we're starting to see, again, bowing happening from the wind that's moving from the storm that's moving through eastern portions of Richland Parish as well as into western portions of Madison Parish. So we'll take a closer look at that, and that's a sign that we could get a straight line wind segment showing up. So I'm going to clear this box, and I'm going to draw down where they're saying. And now we also have more information. They've extended that tornado warning into portions of West and East Carroll Parish. So the threat for tornadic weather continues across our region. We're noticing more storms showing signs of rotation. When we look at this new tornado warning, this warning will stay active at least through 5:15. And when we look at the information, it's all because of thunderstorms capable of producing a tornado. And it's really from that storm that's moving across the Delhi area, really 10 miles north of Delhi. It's continuing to push to the north and east, and it's continuing to show signs of rotation. So we're still dealing with this tornado threat. We don't want you to let your guard down. We have at least another 40 to 50, if not an hour or so more of a warning. And again, the threat for tornadic weather is with us. As of this point, we have not had any confirmed tornadoes, which is a great thing for sure. But we've had enough severe weather around here to lead to a tornado concern. So this is a look at the latest map showing that active weather moving across portions of our region. Now the threat exists for Epps, Pioneer, Oak Grove. Eventually it'll exist for Lake Providence in a few moments. So we want you to keep your guard up and definitely keep track of what's happening with the weather. If you're in these areas, if you are in West Carroll Parish, East Carroll Parish, northern portions or western portions of Madison Parish into eastern portions of Richland Parish, this is your time now to get away from windows, to be in the most interior part of your home, to watch us on our app. If you're concerned, you want to know what's happening, you can watch us on Facebook. We'll have you covered online and we'll keep you safe so you don't have to go out and try to look and see if anything's happening. Just stay safe until the threat ends. But as of now, we're looking at an additional tornado threat that'll be with us at least another 50 minutes or so to an hour across our region. When I take a wider view, we do want to point out that, again, most of the active weather now is across northeastern portions of our viewing area. Things are a lot quieter to our west, which is great news. We're still tracking storms south. Some of those could progress east and potentially impact southern portions of Concordia Parish. But outside of that, the main threat for severe weather is right now located across northeastern portions of our viewing area. We're dealing with strong wind, we're dealing with heavy rain, and we're still showing signs of rotation. I want to take a look at velocity one more time, just to see if we can point out where we have some strong wind. What we'll do is we'll query what's happening and just to get an estimate. And we see a couple of bright spots on the map. So I'll start off with an area just east of Winnsboro. That one is showing some stronger signs of rotation. Gate to gate shear 83 miles per hour. So if you're east of Winnsboro, this is your time to stay inside, get away from windows. We're looking at potentially some strong signs of rotation. As we look at a few more areas, we're looking at a brighter spot also just south and east of Delhi. This one is showing gate to gate shear at about 32 miles per hour. So a weaker rotation, but still gusty wind up to 59 miles per hour. And as we look farther to the north, just south and east of Epps, we're also seeing another bright spot on the radar. And as we look at that, we're looking at wind reaching up to 62 miles per hour and also gate to gate shear at about 39 miles per hour. So we are noticing some strong winds, some stronger rotation with some of these storms. And so that's why they have expanded that tornado warning. And that's why we need you to be in your safe area until the threat is over. So if you're anywhere from places like Delhi, Epps, Forest, we need you to be in your safe area. We need you to be inside, away from windows. I also want to zoom in and show you a few more locations. If you're located west of Tallulah, if you're located south of Lake Providence, you need to be on guard for the threat of dangerous weather as well, because we have had that expanded tornado warning across those areas. At the moment, Lake Providence, you are technically not in the tornado warning, but it's right on your door. So we want you to treat it as if you're under a tornado warning. And again, this warning stays with us at least through 5:15 p.m. I want to check in with meteorologist Abby Ezel to talk more about what's happening with our weather.
Like Marcus said, we've got this active tornado warning that's just been extended into portions of East and West Carroll parishes until 5:15 p.m. tonight. So I've been looking at the rotation over the past few minutes, and like Marcus has mentioned, I've been noticing some multiple areas of rotation across the area and some portions of Epps. We're tracking that right there, possible rotation right there, and then just south and east of Delhi, right along the I-20 corridor. That's where we're tracking another area of rotation embedded in this storm. So this is the reason why we've got this active tornado warning continuing until 5:15 p.m. tonight, as this storm is going to continue to remain on its as it's going to continue to strengthen as we go throughout the rest of the time frame, as it likely has been over the past a little while. We're continuing to track this storm off into portions of East and West Carroll parishes. So as we put a track on this storm is currently moving off towards the north and the east at about 40 to 40 miles per hour once again. If you're in East Carroll, Madison, Morehouse, and West Carroll parishes, you need to be in your safe place as this tornado warning has just been issued. So as we track things out, going off towards the north and the east at about 40 to 45 miles per hour. We're talking about Greenfield at 4:44 p.m., Lake Providence 4:50 p.m. So if you are in Lake Providence, you'll want to start preparing as this tornado warning storm is quickly approaching your area. 4:58 p.m. for Cottonwood, Mayersville at 5:03 p.m. and Cary at 5:08 p.m. So if you know anyone in any of those locations, make sure you get in contact with them and you are able to let them know that a strong storm is beginning to approach their area. As we take a wider view, we're currently tracking the strongest weather in some of our eastern parishes. If you're located towards our western parishes like Lincoln, Jackson, or Union County or Union Parish in South Arkansas, we're continuing to see some weakening going on back there as the stronger storms have begun to exit your area, and we're dealing with some showers that are continuing to push through our western parishes, with the bulk of the activity just towards your east in some of our eastern parishes. So it is something we are going to be watching. We do have some severe thunderstorm warnings just south of those active tornado warnings. Those are going to include portions of, let's see here. We've got Tallulah, Franklin, and Tensas parishes included in this larger severe thunderstorm warning. It is radar indicated. They do not have a tornado possible tag on this storm, but we could see some hail up to 1 1/4 inch in size. So keep that in mind if you are located in any of those areas. So as we turn on hail track, let's see what we got going on right now. As we take it back up towards the north, towards this tornado warning storm, we're beginning to see some hail fall in that rotation that's near Epps. So if you are located near there, you're likely seeing some pea-sized hail falling right now as the tornado warning storm continues to work off towards the north and the east. Now, these storms aren't confirmed. They are just radar indicated. So the radar has been showing some pretty strong signs of a rotation. As we take it back to our velocity scan, we're still seeing rotation just south and east of Delhi at this time, with some rotation also near Epps as that tornado warning continues to expand. This one back near Madison Parish will likely be, well, it just got let go at 4:30 p.m., but we're still continuing to track this one that moves into East and West Carroll parishes, as well as Morehouse Parish, as the storm has continued to show signs of a rotation, and it has showed signs of strengthening as well at times. So we're going to turn things back over to Marcus. Marcus, do you have an update?
Yeah, I want to talk more about this tornado warning that is in place across West and East Carroll Parish, and also eastern portions of Richland Parish. Again, we have this warning that will stay active for another 45 minutes or so. And what's happening with a lot of these storms is that we have a bowing structure, and now we have a new tornado warning that was just issued for some of the same areas where we've seen some really strong wind. That's mainly for pretty much all of northern Madison Parish. That now includes Tallulah. So we're dealing with 2 tornado warnings in the area, and all of these storms have started to develop and they're starting to interact with each other. So we're seeing spin ups here or there, and that's leading to that tornado concern. We're also starting to see some stronger wind push east, and that may lead to some straight line wind damage down the line. So we want you to take this storm very seriously. Again, Tallulah, you're not dealing with any rain at the moment, but the rain, the stormy weather, that tornado warning storm, those storms, they're continuing to push east. So definitely prepare now. Lake Providence, prepare as well. Forest, prepare as well. Epps, you are under the thick of things right now. again, we don't have a confirmed tornado, but we have a lot of these little storms, these storms interacting, leading to spinning in the atmosphere, and that's leading to these additional warnings across the area. As we look a little closer, we're still dealing with this warning, this main warning that was initially warned, that goes through 5:15 p.m. We'll have to get an update for you on that additional warning that was just added, but I suspect they'll likely end around the same time. Either way, we still have another 45 minutes or so of this warning that's out there. And again, the threat is definitely in place with spinning in the atmosphere, with a lot of energy in the atmosphere as well. And as we talk about what's on the way, again, we have a severe thunderstorm warning. These are some of the storms I pointed out earlier that had the potential to organize and strengthen, and we're seeing that now for the Wisner area. We're seeing that just north and east of Harrisonburg, just north of Waterproof. We're expecting active weather to still move across your region within the next hour or so. And this severe thunderstorm warning, it stays active at least through 5:15 p.m. And we're talking about wind up to 60 miles per hour and also hail at a little more than an inch in diameter. So we're still dealing with a lot of threatening weather out there, and we want you to take this very seriously. When we look at what's happening on velocity, it's not as clear as to where some of the strongest storms are located. We're not seeing any major signs of rotation, at least on our radar, but there's enough rotation out there where we're dealing with the threat for tornadoes. Now, on a wider view, this is the largest storm system. It's moving through our region. We're starting to get the heaviest line of showers and storms pushing into our eastern parishes. Again, once that happens, things should be a lot quieter for us, and we'll notice improving weather. We're also tracking what's happening farther south as well. We're still looking at some fairly intense weather moving into central Louisiana, and some of that may try to migrate into our region, but the storms farther south are moving more easterly compared to northeasterly, so that may actually save us from dealing with additional weather as we head through the later evening hours. But this is a look at the satellite radar showing that we're dealing with some of the worst conditions right now, some of the most active weather right now, but we are starting to see improvements mainly to the west. Here's a look at the tornado watches that are still in place across our region. Our eastern parishes still dealing with tornado watches. Our southern parishes still dealing with tornado watches, but we have at least 3 parishes, 1 county that has now dropped that tornado watch, which is great news. As of now, Monroe is still under a tornado watch, but I suspect Ouachita Parish will be dropped from that tornado watch as well. And we'll see that continue to happen as we head throughout the next hour to 2 hours. But we are talking about active weather moving through now, and it still will be with us for a few more hours. Here's a look at the futurecast showing that active weather pushing out. This is a look at 10 p.m. and we should have dry conditions in place across our region. Some areas could still pick up a significant amount of rain. We're looking at close to an inch more of rain across some of our eastern parishes, maybe even higher amounts for places like Natchez. But generally speaking, we're dealing with this dangerous weather moving through now, but we are expecting improving weather by the time we get to tonight. I want to send it over to meteorologist Abby Azale with an update.
Okay, well, Marcus, we just got a comment in from a viewer near Epps. They mentioned that they did see some rotation. That's where we have been tracking this storm that is continuing to work its way off towards the north and the east near Epps at this time. So if you are in this area near L8 Highway 17, you'll definitely want to stay on guard as the storm continues to track off towards the north and the east. So definitely keep this in mind, as we have seen some comments of viewers noticing some rotation out there near Epps. Now, if you are located in these areas and you don't have to be outside, definitely don't go out at this time, as these stronger storms are continuing to pass through your area. You want to stay inside, lowest level of your home, near an interior space, as you don't want to be near a window. So as we take things back to Doppler A radar, we're seeing the heaviest amount of rainfall and the strongest winds beginning to push through portions of Pioneer, Epps at this time, right around Delhi as well. We've also got this other tornado warning storm beginning to push through portions of Madison Parish at this time, right along the Madison Parish, Richland Parish line, along LA Highway 577. So if you are in that area, definitely keep this in mind. Get in that safe place. Get prepared as the storm will continue to push through your area. We are continuing to see some slight rotation near there, right along the I-20 corridor. These storms have had a history of spinning up with some slight rotation, and then we haven't seen any confirmed tornado warnings out of this system just yet, but radar indicated nonetheless. So you'll definitely want to take this serious as this continues to track off towards the north and the east. Lake Providence, you're up next for this tornado warned storm. It's heading your way. We're talking, we're talking about Monticello at 4:40 p.m., Lake Providence 5:06, Fitzler at 5:10 p.m., Cottonwood 5:15, Mayersville at 5:19, and then Rolling Fork at 5:29 p.m. if the storm holds together. We'll continue to be with you for about another hour as this Madison Parish warned storm goes until 5:30 p.m. So I'm going to turn things back over to Marcus for another update.
All right, well, I want to thank you all for bearing with us as we cover this active weather. I know usually you will be watching your regular programming, whether that's sports or any other shows, but I want to thank you for being patient with us as we talk about the threat for dangerous weather. People need this information, and so we want to get it to them. Now, as we talk about the warnings that are out there, Abby just mentioned it, we're still dealing with 2 tornado warnings, one of which goes through 5:30. So we'll be with you for another 55 minutes to an hour or so, and we're talking about this dangerous weather. Fortunately, we have not had any confirmed tornadoes on the ground, which has been a good thing, but we're still waiting and listening just in case we start to hear reports of damage in our areas. As of now, we do not have damage, and most folks still have power at this hour. But as we talk about the alerts that are out there, again, we have 2 tornado warnings covering portions of West and East Carroll Parish, also western portions of Madison Parish, and then we have an additional tornado warning that covers most of Madison Parish, with the exception of areas just outside of Madison like Vicksburg. But farther south, we're dealing with a severe thunderstorm warning. So most of the warnings as of now are across our eastern parishes. I'm going to briefly talk about what's happening south of us because they were dealing with a tornado warning just south of us earlier. But now they're dealing mostly with severe thunderstorm warnings. And you'll notice too, back to the west, even for places like Monroe, well, we have rain showers out there, but things are looking fairly quiet for us at the moment. We'll take a look at Skycam if our directors can pull up that Skycam just so we can show you what's happening here in Monroe. Again, we have a lot of cloud cover now. We still have some mist and some drizzle out there, but outside of that, things are fairly quiet for us, and I think for the most part we will be okay for the rest of the evening here in Monroe and across much of Ouachita Parish. But we still have concerns across our eastern parishes and areas farther to the south and east as well. So let's bring it back to the radar. Let's point out those areas where we're most concerned with. As of now, things have still been mainly dry across portions of Concordia Parish and even southern portions of Tallulah Parish. This is the area that I'm concerned with where we could potentially see additional development. We saw some of that happen already across parts of Tallulah into Tensas Parish, but this area is still storm free at the moment. We'll be tracking more weather pushing in that direction as we head throughout the next couple of hours. Again, we have these 2 tornado warnings, one of which goes through about 5:15 p.m. The other one, the southern warning, goes through about 5:30 p.m. And it's all because of this wet weather continuing to push east. We've seen strong winds with this system, and as those winds interact with additional storms nearby, we're starting to see sails spin up. And that's why we have this tornado concern across our region. So if you are in force, you're still in the thick of things right now. Lake Providence, you're just starting to get some of the rain showers and thunderstorm activity. Epps, you have a lull in the activity, and as long as these storms continue to track to the north and east, you should see improvements, but we're dealing with a lot of stormy weather across southern portions of East Carroll Parish. If you're in this area, if this is a time where if you have family or friends that typically will travel through this area around this time, this is your time to encourage them to either stay at home or find a safe place because dangerous weather is rolling through. We also see heavier showers, thunderstorm activity now. These tornado warned storms pushing into western Madison Parish at this hour. Interstate 20 more or less runs through Tallulah, Delhi over toward Rayville and beyond, also toward the Vicksburg area. Again, this is a heavily traveled road, and so at this time, many folks traveling, if they're traveling, they're dealing with dangerous weather right now. If you have any family or friends that will travel this time of day or maybe are coming back from holiday travel, I would encourage you to tell them to find a safe place to wait out the storms until the threat clears the region. But we're talking about these dangerous storms that are moving through. We're not seeing the strongest signs of rotation, but there's enough happening where we're dealing with the threat for tornadic weather. Now, when we talk about the warnings that are out there, again, these warnings will be with us at least through 5:30. Farther south, we're dealing with severe thunderstorm warning covering places like Wisner and areas over toward Newellton. So we're looking at southern and eastern portions of Franklin Parish, western portions of Tensall Parish. This severe thunderstorm warning stays with us at least through 5:15 p.m. So fortunately for us, we're not dealing with a tornado warning, but we're still dealing with dangerous weather in this area. The main threats being damaging wind and also hail in excess of 1 inch, right around 1.25 inches in diameter. And as we look back to the north, when we try to point out areas where there may be signs of rotation, we're looking at some areas, mainly just east of Epps. We see some reds and some greens close together. We also see some of that wind likely extending into western portions of Madison Parish. And all of this is continuing to push to the east, if not north and east. So the threat for severe weather definitely with us going forward. Now, on a wider view, again, we're still watching our eastern parishes. Those parishes have the greatest threat for severe weather at the moment. But if you are in Monroe, if you're west of Monroe, I think things are much better for you. We're almost at the coast is clear for you in Monroe. But we're definitely clear for places like Ruston, for places like Grambling. We're doing a lot better weather-wise. We're seeing wet weather still impact southern portions of Arkansas. But at this point, we don't have any immediate warnings across southern Arkansas. And as we look farther south, we're looking at still some intense storms moving through central Louisiana at the moment. We will keep an eye on this wet weather just to see how it plays out and what it means for places like Concordia Parish or southern portions of Tallulah Parish. But at this point, the worst weather right now is what we're dealing with across northeastern portions of our viewing area. Again, I want to talk about the alerts that are out there, focusing in on the tornado watch. We still have a tornado watch that stretches across Mississippi down into northeastern Louisiana, central Louisiana, southern Louisiana, as well as into southeastern Texas. But we have seen the all clear given in terms of tornado threat for places like Jackson Parish, Lincoln Parish, Union Parish, and Union County in southern Arkansas. Here's a look. Things do start to clear out by the time we get to 10 p.m. and that is definitely good news for us, but we just have to get there. So I want to take you back to the radar just to point out what we're still dealing with. And as we look at what's going on, we are starting to see signs that maybe we have a little debris being picked up by the wind. I'll send it over to meteorologist Abby Ezel to talk a little bit more about what we're dealing with when it comes to this tornado threat.
Yes, that's right, Marcus. I've been looking at the storm that's near Pioneer, just north of Epps, where it was rotating. And I've been noticing that there has been a drop in our debris tracker. So we might see some slight debris being lofted into the air in this tornado warned storm and moving near Pioneer at this time. So if you are in this area, you'll definitely want to stay indoors, as this storm is fairly strong and it does still have signatures of showing signs of a rotation, and likely with that signature of debris being lofted into the air, we've likely got a very strong storm that is moving through portions of East and West Carroll parishes and Morehouse as well at this time, moving near the Pioneer area. If you are located in that area, stay in your safe place away from windows. If you have something that you can cover your head with, I definitely recommend doing that to protect yourself from this active weather. But like Marcus has been mentioning before, the worst of these storms are in some of our eastern parishes right along the Mississippi River. So they're about to exit the arc limits, exit our area, and after that we're just mainly watching these discrete cells that are continuing to develop just towards our south and our east. Those possibly could bring along the development of some stronger storms as we go into this evening, as these storms continue to track off towards the north and the east. But as for portions of the western half of the area, like Union County in South Arkansas, Union Parish, Wynn Parish, Jackson, Lincoln, and Ouachita Parish, you're in a lot better shape. The strongest of the weather has moved through your area. We're still dealing with some slight showers on the back end of this line, but for the most part, you've dodged a bullet. You've missed that stronger weather that some of these other communities in the eastern half of our area have picked up on. So as we turn back to these current tornado warnings for portions of East and West Carroll parishes, as well as Madison Parish, we're continuing to track signs of rotation right near the Epps and Pioneer area. This is moving towards Lake Providence at around 40 to 45 miles per hour. So as we put a track on this storm moving off towards the northeast, we're talking about Lake Providence being at 5:05 p.m., Cottonwood at 5:16 p.m., Mayersville at 5:20, Rolling Fork at 5:33, and then crossing into Mississippi, the Sharkey and Issaquena community around 5:33 p.m. So if you are located in any of those areas or know anyone located in any of those locations, definitely shoot them a text message. We'll be live on the air on our app and on Facebook through the duration of both of these tornado warned storms. They're continuing to track off towards the north and the east. They'll end right around 5:30 tonight. That's when that Madison Parish tornado warning storm goes until. So I'm going to toss things back over to Marcus with an update on what we're seeing.
Yes, we just had a new severe thunderstorm warning issued for some of our southern parishes, including Tallulah and Concordia Parish, and it's all due in part to this active weather that's now pushing east across our region. I think with the main threat with this weather will be straight line damaging winds, so we want you to be aware of that threat. I also want to talk about the lightning that's out there, because we're continuing to see a lot of lightning along the heaviest line of showers and thunderstorms moving across our region. If you're here in the Monroe area, you likely heard the thunder. We still have some thunderstorms in the area, and we'll have a few more tonight potentially, but outside of that, the worst weather is now pushing off and impacting our eastern parishes. As mentioned, we still have 2 tornado warnings out there. The National Weather Service office in Jackson, Mississippi has trimmed the size of the northern tornado warning, but it still covers much of West and East Carroll Parish, with the heaviest rain now moving through the heart of East Carroll Parish. Pretty much the entire parish dealing with very heavy rain, so I wouldn't be surprised if we deal with some flash flooding as well. And we see this extends farther south into western portions of Madison Parish. And this whole line is continuing to push to the east. So Tallulah, you're starting to get some thunderstorms moving into your region. Again, you are under that tornado warning. This is your time to be inside in the most interior part of your home, so that way you can stay safe from any type of system that is moving through. Stay as safe as possible. Now we'll look farther south just to point out that we still have a severe thunderstorm warning in place for parts of Franklin Parish and Tensall Parish at this hour, mainly due in part to strong wind and also some hail. But as we look farther south, we're dealing with that new severe thunderstorm warning that covers places like Clayton and Jonesville and areas farthest to the south. And that heavy rain, that thunderstorm activity now pushing through the Gina area and Harrisonburg, and it's continuing to push east, and it will bring impacts to places like Natchez as we head throughout the next 20 to 30 minutes, maybe even 40 minutes. So the threat for dangerous weather is now moving into your area. This area is a little more rural, but we still have people who live there, so we want you to be aware of the dangerous weather that's on the way. As we look back north and try to point out where we see wind, we're noticing likely a line of strong wind now moving through the heart of Madison Parish, approaching Tensas right now. We're also noticing some stronger wind moving through portions of East Carroll Parish. Back to the west, places like Epps, while they're still dealing with stormy weather nearby, they're starting to see a lull in some of the wind activity. But again, the threat for severe weather is definitely there. On a wider view, all of this moisture is also continuing to push to the east as the largest storm system pushes to the east. We also have some motion to the north and east, and that changing wind direction with height has led to the threat for tornadic weather for us. But again, we're waiting on this leading edge or this line of very heavy rain and thunderstorm activity to make it to the Mississippi River. Once it does so, things will be a lot quieter for us. We'll see improvements around our region as well. And that will be a good thing for us in terms of going about our day and starting to relax from the threat of severe weather. But this is a broader view of the system. The most active weather right now in the country, at least in this part of the country, is what we are experiencing. But back to the Western Shreveport, they've already given the all clear, so things are looking better for them, and things are much better for places to the west. If you have any family or friends flying into Dallas this evening and then making their trip over into northeastern Louisiana and southern Arkansas, they should be okay weather-wise, especially if they travel more or less after 6 p.m. heading in our direction. But this is a look at what's going on. I do want to go back to the tornado warnings that are out there. We still have 2 in our viewing area. These more or less go through 5:15 and 5:30, but this energy is continuing to push off to the east, push into portions of Mississippi, and once it happens, we'll see improving weather across our region. At the moment, though, we're noticing some very heavy rain, thunderstorm activity now pushing into Jonesville, and this activity will continue to push into Concordia Parish and eventually impact Natchez as we head throughout the next 20 to 40 minutes. I want to send it over to meteorologist Abby Ezell for more updates on what's happening.
Yes, Marcus, I'm looking at the hail right now. I am beginning to notice that some of these storms moving through portions of East and West Carroll Parish are containing some small amounts of hail. So you may be hearing that outside, pea-sized hail falling near East and West Carroll parishes. So definitely keep that in mind if you are hearing that outside right now in this tornado warned storm. It is very strong, but I did want to touch on what's going on just towards the south. In some of our southern parishes, we're talking about portions of Franklin and Tensas parishes. As we take a look at this severe thunderstorm warning, we're talking about some tornado possible tag on this storm. This is for Tallulah, Franklin, and Tensas parishes. Tornado possible, wind speeds up to 60 miles per hour and hail up to 1 1/4 inch. I have been watching this storm off towards the side, and I have begun to notice that there is some ever so slightly rotation near the Newellton area. You can see where those colors are beginning to combine right here on a radar near LA Highway 4, right next to Highway 65. We're beginning to see those colors come together. So that is another strong storm we're watching, and we're continuing to watch as it tracks off towards the north and the east. So if you do have people, people near that area, likely give them a text message. Tell them they've got a very strong storm moving towards their area. As we move back up towards the north, towards these 2 tornado warned storms, this Madison Parish one goes until 5:30 p.m. and then this one towards the north and portions of East and West Carroll Parish that they've trimmed back ever so slightly goes until 5:15 p.m. This is radar indicated, so we don't have confirmation of a tornado on the ground at this time, but we have seen some signs of rotation here on a radar. This is what's indicating that there may be some stronger winds within this storm. Just south of Lake Providence, you can see where those reds and greens are combining. That's an area of rotation that we're continuing to keep an eye on. And as we go towards the south into portions of Madison Parish, right near the Tallulah area. We're right on the edge of the Jackson radar right here, where these colors are combining. So we're not getting the best view because we're right on the edge of that radar, but we're still showing some signs of rotation beginning to move closer towards Tallulah. So if you are in that area, you'll definitely want to stay safe, be in your safe place, lowest level of your home, away from windows, in an interior room. So keep that in mind. But as we take a wider view, what's going on right now, we're continuing to track this line of showers and thunderstorms. It's right along the Mississippi River, beginning to exit our region. This will continue to track towards Mississippi. So if you know anyone in Mississippi, let them know that some stronger storms are coming their way over the next hour or so, right along the western edge of Mississippi, right along the Mississippi River. But as for our western parishes, where that line has already passed through, they're beginning to see some lighter rainfall. Still, we are still seeing some lightning within these storms, so there may be a rumble of thunder or two embedded in some of these showers that do pass through the area in some of our western parishes. But for the most part, western parishes just north and south of the I-20 corridor, you're in the clear at this time. It's really what we're tracking off towards the east that we're keeping an eye on. So we're going to turn it back over to Marcus with an update.
All right, well, I want us to talk about some very strong wind now pushing into Lake Providence, showing some signs of rotation, and they have just added a tornado warning for a part of that area. We're looking at signs of rotation just south of Lake Providence, so we want you to keep your guard up. If you are in Lake Providence, this is your time to get away from windows, to get away from any outside walls, so that way you can stay safe. But we're looking at stronger pockets of wind here or there. I do want to zoom out just to see what's happening with that new tornado warning that was issued. And again, it covers that area, but it also extends farther south. It also covers areas into portions of Mississippi. I know a lot of folks who live in Rolling Fork, Mississippi. They take tornado warnings very seriously because of what they went through last year, and they're under a tornado warning as we speak. So I want to take a look and see what's the latest information with this warning. It goes through 6 p.m. The bulk of that warning is now into parts of Mississippi, but part of it still covers our region. If it's safe to do so, and if we have additional warnings expire, we may end up getting off air. Again, the most active weather is now pushing south, but if you're in the Lake Providence area, we are looking at a few little spin-ups along the leading edge where those intense thunderstorms are. We want you to be ready for that threat, and we want you to take it seriously. You are under a tornado warning. We also want to point out where we have a line of strong wind now pushing towards Tallulah. I want to highlight it or circle it for you. We're dealing with that strong wind now. It's continuing to push east. It's within that circle, and we've seen wind get pretty strong in this area. We'll do a query just to see how fast some of the wind is blowing, and we're looking at wind anywhere from 20 to 30 miles per hour. Some spots have been higher, so we want you to be aware of that. But you'll notice a gust of wind with this active weather pushing into the Tallulah area. And Tallulah, you are under a tornado warning as we speak. So I do want to talk about what's happening on a wider view. We still have 2 tornado warnings in our viewing area. Those tornado warnings have just been updated. We're looking at a smaller area of concern covering central portions of East Carroll Parish, as well as into northern portions of Madison Parish. Tallulah, you're still in that tornado warning. And then farther south, we're dealing with severe thunderstorm warnings that are now extending further into portions of Tensall Parish, and also across portions of Concordia Parish at this hour. So we're still dealing with this dangerous weather. At last check, we are still talking about this tornado warning that's covering portions of East Carroll Parish staying active at least through 5:15 p.m. Again, that line is continuing to push to the east. I will slide the map south too to see what the latest is on that tornado warning that covers the Tallulah area. We're looking at that warning staying active at least through 5:30. So we have another 30 minutes or so of active weather. So if you are in these tornado warnings, we want you to basically, again, take the necessary precautions and make sure that you are safe from these dangerous storms that are moving through. So we're definitely going to keep bringing you updates, but it looks like we may start to see some of our parishes cleared from some of these tornado warnings over the next several minutes or so. We're still seeing signs of rotation here or there, but the rotation is not as strong. But I do want to take you back to the Tallulah area. We are still talking about an area that is showing some strong signs of rotation just south of Tallulah. When we look at how fast the winds are blowing, we're looking at 38-mile-per-hour winds, 40-mile-per-hour winds. So that is strong enough to cause issues for you. We want you to take this weather very seriously. And as we talk about additionally, again, we're looking at 30 to 40-mile-per-hour winds. So the rotation not as strong, but it still is out there. And as we query a few more areas, okay, we have a new scan. So that's good. We have a new scan from from our radar, that is, to give us an update on how fast the winds are blowing. And now we're showing wind just north and east of Lake Providence, being estimated at 73 miles per hour, at least the gate-to-gate shear. So that's a sign of rotation. So again, if you are in Lake Providence, you need to be inside and away from windows to stay safe from the storm system. And I don't like the path that this storm system is taking, because it takes it potentially into the Rolling Fork area or just to the north and west of Rolling Fork. So if you have any family or friends in Rolling Fork, give them a heads up that dangerous weather is moving in their direction. And as we look south, we're still looking at that tornado warning storm moving across the heart of Madison Parish. So dangerous weather is continuing to track across the region. When we take a look at the radar, though, the worst weather right now starting to exit, or at least moving through portions of Madison Parish and East Carroll Parish. But once these storm systems cross the Mississippi River, we should start to see much better weather for those areas. Some of us are still dealing with thunderstorms. We've seen some lightning strikes here in the Monroe area. We've seen lightning on our tower cam, and we're still dealing with some active weather. This is not a time to go outside because of the threat for lightning, but we are seeing improving weather across much of our region. We're still watching areas across Tensas and Concordia Parish. Those are the areas that are still mainly dry at this hour, but stormy weather is continuing to push east. And so as that happens, you'll notice, again, stormier conditions for Natchez, and then for areas just over the Mississippi River line into parts of Mississippi. So we're almost through with this threatening weather. We're almost through with this dangerous weather, which is good news, but we still have to keep our guard up. So as I focus in on the warnings that are out there, we're mainly focused on East Carroll Parish and also northern Madison Parish at this hour. In Tallulah, you're just now getting the stormy weather pushing into your region. So as we take a look at the map, Tallulah, those showers, those storms are now entering your area. And then eventually we'll see those showers and storms impact the Vicksburg area. Lake Providence, you're dealing with that tornado warning. We have seen signs of rotation now just north and east of Providence. So we want to keep that in mind. If you have any family or friends in western portions of Mississippi near the Rolling Fork area, definitely give them a heads up and let them know a dangerous storm system is pushing in their direction. 2 tornado warnings across our viewing area now. Lots of lightning out there, some of the most intense lightning associated with those thunderstorms that are pushing through the region. And as we talk about, again, what's on the way, we'll look south. We're seeing more storm activity still pushing into parts of Tensas Parish. At this point, we're only dealing with, we're dealing with the severe thunderstorm warning for places like northern Tallulah Parish, western Tensas Parish. At this point also, we still have a possible tornado with some of these storms. We have seen them rotate, so we'll be tracking that threat over the next 20 minutes to 40 minutes to potentially an hour. We're also dealing with hail as well, hail larger than an inch in size. When we look farther south, the showers and thunderstorms are continuing to push east. We do have a severe thunderstorm warning in place for Concordia Parish. That will go for the next 20 minutes or so. And then once this wet weather makes it into Concordia Parish, it'll move into Mississippi, and we'll likely notice improving weather. When we look farther to the south and west, places like Alexandria, just outside of our viewing area, they're dealing with rain right now, but they don't have any warnings for the city. There are warnings farther south, but it looks like the worst of the weather may stay to our south as we head throughout really the rest of this evening. So we'll continue to follow what's going on. The time now is 5:06 p.m. We have those tornado warnings that will stay active at least through 5:15 and potentially into 5:30. But I think by that point, the greatest threat for that weather will continue to push off east into Mississippi, and that'll move out of our area and we'll start to get the all clear across our region. But I want to send it over to meteorologist Abby Ezell for a little bit more on what we're dealing with.
Okay, so I have an update from the National Weather Service on this severe thunderstorm warning that could have a tornado possible tag just south of this tornado warning storm in portions of Madison Parish. This rotation we were discussing earlier near Newellton has been confirmed by the National Weather Service as contamination of the radar, so that is not going on. So this storm is likely not rotating if you are in this severe thunderstorm warning, which is some good news as rotation has not been seen within that storm. But as for these other two tornado warning storms just towards the north in portions of East Carroll and Madison Parish, we're continuing to see some slight rotation with these storms as we take a closer view. This is right along the edge of the Jackson, Mississippi radar, so we don't have the best view, but we can see some of the stronger winds right where likely near rotation is forming near Tallulah. So if you are in the Tallulah area, you'll definitely want to take cover at this time. Moving up towards the North Lake Providence, we're seeing some slight rotation near your area, so another place to watch as we put some tracks on these active storms currently moving off towards the northeast at about 40 to 45 miles per hour. Putting a track on that, we've got Southside Elementary School in about 3 minutes at 5:11 p.m. Lake Providence 5:13, Mayersville 5:32, Hopedale at 5:40, and then moving into Mississippi at 5:48 p.m. we've got Sharkey and Issaquena counties. So if you know anyone in those areas, keep them in contact. Let them know that this storm is going to push into their area. Now, we've gotten an extension of this tornado warned storm that's moving through portions of Madison Parish. This will likely cross over the Mississippi River and into portions of Mississippi as they have extended this storm. So if you know anyone right along just north of the Vicksburg area, let them know that the strong weather is moving towards their area. We're continuing to track this as it crosses into Mississippi right along the Mississippi River region. That's where a lot of these stronger storms are beginning to develop, and that's because of this warm sector we have in place. So we're going to take a look at temperatures right now. We can see some of the warmest temperatures right along the Mississippi River, 71 degrees in Tallulah and 72 degrees in Natchez. The reason for this is because we've got a warm sector, and that's what's really driving these storms to develop and continue strengthening along in this area is this warmer, more moist air we've got in place across this region. The reason for the lack of storms off towards the west in some of our western parishes is you can see some slightly cooler air, and where they've had some rain, places like El Dorado sitting at 54 degrees and 59 degrees at Monroe. So this warm sector is going to continue to work its way off towards the east as we go into this evening, and as that does so, we'll likely see storms beginning to weaken, but we're still going to keep an eye on this main line that's continuing to push off towards the east. And then we've also got this little bit of tail end coming in behind it, just south of the Alexandria area, continuing to push north and east. A lot of these storms have been a little bit on the stronger side, but They have thankfully remained below tornado warned storms. So we've got a few severe thunderstorm warnings just towards our south that we'll definitely have to keep an eye on as we go throughout the rest of the day. But the big story right now are these 2 tornado warned storms in portions of East Carroll and Madison parishes. So I believe Marcus has an update for us right now.
Well, I have an update for us. Fortunately, we're noticing some of the strongest wind now push out of the Lake Providence area, but we're still noticing 2 strong areas now pushing into Mississippi. And I'm pointing this out because Rolling Fork went through a horrible tornado last year, and it led to a lot of damage and devastation. And it looks like we're starting to get another storm system producing a tornado and moving in that direction. So if you have any family or friends in Rolling Fork, you want to give them a heads up and let them know that dangerous weather is approaching them. They have about another 10 to 15 minutes. We're also noticing another area of rotation right on the border of Louisiana and Mississippi, just south of Mayersville. That's showing signs of rotation as well. But we wanted to give people a heads up. Again, if you have any family or friends, if you know people who may be out and about in the Rolling Fork area, let them know a dangerous storm is approaching their area. And when we put a track on this storm system, we're talking about Rolling Fork potentially being impacted by this system by the time we get to 5:25 p.m. Now, on a wider view, this is what's happening with our weather. We're now looking at that wet weather continuing to push toward the Mississippi River. We are noticing things a lot quieter back to the west, which is great news, but we're still dealing with some thunderstorm activity behind the leading edge of the most intense thunderstorms and severe weather. So keep your guard up. If you're planning to go out, just be very safe. Expect wet roads, expect wet conditions. If you are in places like Concordia Parish, if you're in Tallulah Parish, Tensas Parish, you're still under the threat for severe weather, as well as areas like Madison Parish and East Carroll Parish. So we don't want you going anywhere. We want you to stay inside and stay safe until the threat leaves. But we are noticing the end of this event coming up fairly quickly. And so we are talking about improving weather conditions, which is good news for us. Now, as we look at what's on the way, we'll first start out with the tornado watches that are still in place for our viewing area. Much of the region is still under a tornado watch at this hour. We do have a few exceptions, mainly for Jackson Parish, Lincoln Parish, Union Parish, and Union County in southern Arkansas. Everyone else still under a tornado watch, but we are expecting these tornado watches to start to drop across our region, and that will be a good thing when it comes to weather. Here's a look at the futurecast showing that things are quiet for us by the time we get to 8 or 9 p.m. Definitely 10 p.m. We'll notice dry weather taking over. We'll have temperatures down into the low and mid 50s. And then by tomorrow morning, we'll likely start out with some cloud cover and potentially some fog out there. But things will be so much better for us on Sunday and really into much of the holiday week next week. We just have to get through this stormy weather. So I do want to go back to a graphic just to talk about what's happening with the tornado warnings. Again, we have one that is scheduled to expire right around 5:15, and at the moment it is 5:14. And when we talk about what's going on, we'll zoom in a little closer just to point out that we're still dealing with the tornado warning that is out there. We're starting to get some preliminary storm reports, and we have one storm report of a tree down near Highway 17 north of Oak Grove, and hail was also reported. So we're starting to see some tree damage in the Oak Grove area. That's not too surprising considering how strong these storms have been, and I think we'll likely get more reports of stormy weather as we hit, or damage at least from trees at least, as we head throughout the rest of this evening and as people get a chance to get out and do some surveying. But we have a new update on the tornado warning that is in place. We still have a tornado warning covering southeastern portions of East Carroll Parish, but if you're in places like Kilbourne or Oak Grove, Pioneer, Epps, you are more or less in the clear right now. I would not go outside right away. We still have dangerous weather east of you, but weather is improving for you. And when we take a look at the latest information when it comes to the warning that's in place for East Carroll and Madison Parish, we have this warning that is still with us through 5:30. So we more or less have one more tornado warning in our viewing area. And then after that, we'll be tracking some of the severe thunderstorm warnings that are farther south. But we have one additional warning that's in place right now, one tornado warning for our viewing area that stays active at least through 5:30. Tallulah, you're experiencing some of the worst weather right now. We're also noticing some very heavy rain just south of you, so we'll have to track and see how that plays out. But as we talk about what's out there, we have a couple of severe thunderstorm warnings for Concordia Parish, with more rain now covering Concordia Parish, heavy rain, thunderstorm activity covering Concordia Parish, and we have more of that stormy weather now pushing into Tensas Parish as well. But the greatest threat we're facing right now is a tornado warning that covers southeastern portions of East Carroll Parish and also northeastern portions of Madison Parish, including for the city of Tallulah. If you have any family or friends in Vicksburg, they are likely starting to be under the threat, or at least under a severe thunderstorm warning, but they'll need to be on guard for active weather. I do want to take a look and see what's happening with some of the strong wind I noticed pushing into Mississippi. And again, the threat for tornadic weather. We're still talking about very dangerous weather pushing toward the Rolling Fork area. They're still showing signs of rotation at about 70 miles per hour. So that is still a sign that they're potentially more or less going to deal with some very strong wind. So we want to, again, if you have any family or friends in Rolling Fork or Cary, Mississippi, give them a heads up to seek shelter immediately. We're also noticing some lighter wind just to the north and west of Rolling Fork, but all of this stormy weather is continuing to push east. So just to reiterate, we have another 13 minutes or so of covering a tornado warning that's in place for southeastern portions of East Carroll Parish and northeastern portions of Madison Parish. That includes for the city of Tallulah. But once these storms make it to the Mississippi River, we'll notice quieter weather across our region. I do want to see if we can go to the tower cam just to show you some of the thunderstorms that are producing lightning in our viewing area. We'll leave it here for a couple of seconds because we're starting to see some impressive lightning on the backside of those storms that are moving into the Mississippi River Valley and moving into Mississippi as well. But we're dealing with rain out there for sure. We're dealing with thunderstorms out there, and we're starting to get more and more reports of damage in the area. Meteorologist Abby Ezell just pointed out that we have storm reports now out of Richland or Delhi, Louisiana. Multiple power lines have been blown down. That's along Highway 17 north of Delhi. So this is not a time where you want to go outside, especially if you are in places like Richland and Franklin Parish. Those areas were hit very hard with these thunderstorms that have passed through the region, and we're still dealing with the aftermath now with some power lines down. We've had a report at least of some trees down, but fortunately no reports of injuries or any fatalities, but dangerous weather nonetheless. So again, this is a look at our Creed and Creed tower cams showing the sky conditions across our region. We're dealing with more rain moving back into the region, but this rain is non-severe. This thunderstorm activity is non-severe. Let's take a look at what's happening on radar. Just to point out again, we're dealing with non-severe rain showers and thunderstorms pushing in from the west. We still have this one tornado warning in our viewing area. And farther south, we have a couple of severe thunderstorm warnings. To our east, just south of Jackson, Mississippi, they're dealing with more storm activity. And we have updates now when it comes to the tornado watch that's been in place. So I'll send it over to meteorologist Abby Ezell with an update.
Marcus mentioned before, we do have updates to the tornado watch that was in effect until 9 p.m. They have currently, the National Weather Service in Shreveport has currently trimmed that back. They've cut all of our western parishes and counties. So it's really the eastern half of the area that we are watching for potential storm and development as we go into the rest of this evening and into tonight. So as we turn back to Doppler radar, continuing to track both of those tornado warned storms, likely the strongest portion of these storms has begun to cross into Mississippi, right along the Mississippi River. So that is some good news for people in East Carroll Parish as well as Madison Parish. But they did just release this severe thunderstorm warning. So let's see how long this one goes for. This does move into portions of Madison Parish as well as Tensaw Parish. So if we can get a timing on that, they're saying tornado possible, and then for counties of Mississippi, Claiborne and Warren are included. So this severe thunderstorm warning has shown signs of some rotation. This was just issued. This continues until 6:15 p.m. tonight. This is a severe thunderstorm warning again for Madison and Tensaw parishes. So keep your guard up if you're in any of those parishes right along in the Mississippi River. They did hint at a tornado possible tag on this storm system. So it's something you'll want to watch. Keep your guard up. Make sure you have a place inside, away from windows, in your interior room that you can get to if it does show signs of a rotation. This is where we're likely going to continue to see tornadic development over the next hour or so as this line continues to work its way off towards the east and into portions of Mississippi. So we're still watching this tornado warning storm for portions of East Carroll and Madison parishes. It goes until 5:30 p.m. So we've got about 8 more minutes on the storm. So we'll turn over to Marcus. Marcus, do you have any updates on the last remaining few minutes of this tornado warning storm?
Well, the main update is that we're still watching this storm, but the worst of the weather is now starting to push into Mississippi. So again, that is good news for us here in the Ark-La-Mist. But as we look towards Tallulah, you're dealing with the most intense part of the storm right now. So again, stay inside, stay away from windows, wait until the threat is over before you do anything else. And we're looking at heavier rain farther to the south as well. So Tallulah, you're under that tornado warning. Southeastern portions of East Carroll Parish, you're under that warning as well, and that moisture extends into parts of Mississippi. When we look south, we're looking at heavier rain with a possible tornado moving through portions of Tensaw Parish at this hour. We're also dealing with lots of lightning, and that continues farther south as well. Places like Clayton, Natchez now just getting into that wet weather, and we're seeing the wet weather continue to push south and east as well. Again, once we get through this line of active weather, things look a lot quieter for really the rest of the viewing area, but we are tracking stormy weather continuing to push to the north and east. Again, we were tracking more or less what was happening for the Rolling Fork area because they went through that devastating tornado last spring actually. But as we talk about what's on the way, here's a look. Satellite radar showing drier air moving in from the west now. Places like Shreveport starting to dry out. We're dealing with another batch of rain here in the Monroe area, but eventually all of this pushes into Mississippi, and then the threat for severe weather will extend into portions of Mississippi, into parts of Alabama, and then for the next day, it'll extend into parts of the Carolinas as well. When we take a look at what's going on too, we're noticing changes. This is the alerts. We now have Ouachita Parish removed from the tornado watch. We only have 3 parishes at this hour under a tornado watch. We're dealing with Madison Parish, Tensaw Parish, and Concordia Parish at this hour, still continuing with that watch. And Abby, if you can, tell me how long that watch goes through. Is it 9 p.m. or is it a little bit earlier than that? She'll let me know in a second, but again, the main threat is that we're talking about dangerous weather across our region. So let's track how things progress. Again, this stormy weather will eventually exit. That'll lead to quieter weather across our region. And then after that, we're looking at just improving weather as we head into the new year. And Abby, did you have a...
Yes, that watch continues until 9 p.m. So the original time frame.
Okay, so those tornado watches that are still in place for for Tensaw Parish, Concordia Parish, and Madison Parish, those will stay active at least into the evening hours. And then after that, we'll see them expire, and then we'll start to enjoy fairly quieter weather across our region. Here's a look at the potential for additional rain. Some areas could still pick up at least 1 inch to 2 inches more of rain across our region. So this is rain that could lead to some minor flooding. We haven't had a lot of reports of flooding across the region, but we did have reports earlier of very heavy rain in the El Dorado area, and that led to street flooding in El Dorado. I do want to adjust the map back to radar just to point out what we're dealing with. We're talking about Rain showers and severe weather still pushing across our region. When we look at the warnings that are still out there, we still have one tornado warning in our viewing area that covers really northeastern portions of Madison Parish and also southeastern portions of East Carroll Parish. And again, we're looking at the worst weather now pushing across Tallulah and now starting to move into portions of Mississippi. Vicksburg, you're just south and east of that wet weather, but keep your guard up. The wet weather, the stormy weather likely to impact your region as we head throughout this evening. Again, as we talk about these storms this morning, the warning for severe weather goes through another 4 minutes or so. And when we talk about the alerts that are out there, again, we have been tracking stormy weather moving through portions of Mississippi. But as we focus back in on our region, we are just mainly dealing with these two warnings that are still with us. Really one warning and then another warning that covers northeastern portions of East Carroll Parish. But for the most part, we have one warning that's with us. And we're still tracking it, and we're seeing, it looks like it's some type of rotation showing up just east of Tallulah. So I'm going to put a query on that and see how fast the winds are blowing. So we're looking at 78-mile-per-hour winds just east of Tallulah. So I'm going to circle that just to point out where we're potentially dealing with some strong, very strong wind. And you actually see it showing up on the radar now. So this area where you see the reds and greens close together, I'll circle it. If you're located east of Tallulah, again, this is your time to be inside and away from any windows, any doors, any outside walls, because this area, we're dealing with some very strong winds in excess of 70, even 80 miles per hour. And it looks like we're having some type of rotation taking place here. So again, this is a more rural area, but we want you to keep your guard up. If you're in this area, definitely get away from any windows, get away from any outside walls, get to the most interior part of your home so that way you can stay safe. Again, dangerous weather is moving just east of Tallulah. This weather will continue to progress to the north and east, and that will lead to overall improving weather for us. This area is still under a tornado warning. Tallulah, you're still under a tornado warning, but the worst of the weather is east of you now. So dangerous weather is moving through. We want you to take this very seriously. We want you to know that it won't last forever, but it's impacting us right now. So we want you to do everything you can to stay safe, to stay inside, and to avoid going outdoors until the threat for dangerous weather is over. But I do want to put another query on this just to see how fast some of the winds are moving, because it does look like we're starting to get something spinning up. And when we look at that, we see gate-to-gate shear at about 74 miles per hour. So we're talking about something that is showing signs of rotation, that is showing strong signs of rotation as well. I want to query a few more areas just to see if we can get another idea of how fast some of the winds are blowing. We're still looking at the area that is of most concern right here, just east of Tallulah, just south of Ashley. Right there in the heart of things. Let's see if I can get a query just to see how fast some of the winds are going. Yeah, we're still looking at strong wind at about 74 miles per hour. And yeah, so this is a very dangerous storm that's moving through eastern portions of Madison Parish at this hour. So we'll go back and we'll look at that storm one more time. We have that tornado warning. That storm itself, that dangerous storm, is continuing to push to the east. We will put a track on this storm and show you who can be impacted downstream. We're looking more so into Mississippi at this point, so this is just outside of our viewing areas. But the signal from our TV station doesn't stop at any geographic line. It does extend into Mississippi, so we want you to, again, be aware of this dangerous threat that's continuing to push east. And just taking a look at our tower cam, we're dealing with a lot of lightning here in the Monroe area. We can go to the tower cam. We've been seeing streaks of lightning across the sky, cloud to cloud lightning. We'll leave it here for a few seconds and then we'll check back in on that tornado warning. And actually what we'll do now, we'll go back to the graphics now because we have an update on that warning. It looks like that warning has been canceled for our region, but we're still tracking some very strong wind. That tornado warning that was in place for portions of Madison Parish and southeastern portions of East Carroll Parish. They're going with the severe thunderstorm warning with a possible tornado. We're looking at 60-mile-per-hour winds. So we'll stay on this particular storm and just point out that it is east of Tallulah. So it's not passing through the heart of Tallulah. It already passed, the storm itself already passed through Tallulah. It just strengthened just to the east of Tallulah. And as we track it, it looks like it's moving into Mississippi. And so we'll keep following that. But that looks like a very, very potent storm that's currently moving across northeastern portions of Madison Parish. Again, if you are east of Tallulah, if you live in these more rural areas, if you're north of Mound, you want to make sure you are inside, away from windows, so that way you can stay as protected as possible and know that this storm will eventually end and we'll start to see improving weather. But at the moment, we're still dealing with dangerous weather. So we're getting close to the time where we're going to send you back to your regular programming. We still have just a bit of East Carroll Parish, northeastern portions of the parish, under a tornado warning, but for the most part, a lot of this activity now is pushing off into Mississippi. And when we look at the radar, we're noticing some of the worst weather, again, continuing to push off into Mississippi and out of East Carroll Parish. I will stay on just for a little bit longer, just until the worst of that danger storm east of Tallulah officially moves into Mississippi. But things are looking a lot better for us, which is great news. Things look a lot quieter for us as we head throughout the evening. But if you are located east of Tallulah, we're still dealing with this dangerous storm. And as we move the map south, we still have some severe thunderstorm warnings farther south. St. Joseph, you're starting to feel the impacts of a powerful storm. Natchez, you're feeling the impacts as well. But a lot of that is continuing to push off to the east and out of the region. So what I think we're going to do now, since that storm that's east of Tallulah is continuing to push into Mississippi, I think what we'll do is send you back to your regular programming. But we want to thank you for being patient with us this afternoon as we dealt with this threat for severe weather. I think the worst is over for us. If we have any random additional warnings issued, we will come back on air. But for those of you in Tensall Parish and Concordia Parish, we still want you to keep your guard up as powerful storms are still moving through. We just don't have any tornado warnings for those storms. But for now, we're looking at very heavy rain moving through parts of Tensall Parish. But for now, for myself, meteorologist Abby Ezell, we want to thank you for tuning in, and we'll send you back. Actually, I think we have one more update. Let's see if we have an update. Okay, yeah, so we still have that tornado warning that's in place for East Carroll Parish, but that is now shifting into Mississippi. And when I look at the map, we no longer have a warning that is for our viewing area for tornado. So what we'll do is we'll actually send you back to your regular programming. But we want to thank you for tuning in. Hopefully everyone stays safe. And meteorologist Abby Ezell will be back with the late news and any more updates if they do occur.
This has been a KNOE 8 News Severe Weather Alert.